What's up, Warriors? Welcome back to the Battlefield of Mind. My name's Rick, creator of the Warriors Way, and we're doing a dual podcast. So the intro to the other one comes from the amazing Nicole Janton.
Yes, welcome back to the Anxious and Ambitious podcast. I'm excited for this dual episode.
Yeah, we're going to get into it. Now, we've done a few episodes already, some of them 3 hours long. So I know that we can go. So we're going to keep going. We actually were just talking for about 20 minutes already and realizing we should just be recording already.
Yes, exactly.
So in any case, we were actually let's just jump back in a little bit and talk a little. Let's catch them up a little. We talked about how things can be considered a tool or a weapon. That's how we kind of started off, and we're going to get into some of the more controversial things in this world, be it truth, be it polarization, masculine, feminine, getting into the different points of fear, anxiety, all the things that screw with us in our days, and how we're able to see things in a different way, and how we can actually grow together instead of just keep tearing each other down or pushing expectations on each other. So I started off with the idea of tool and a weapon. And if you want to give an example of a tool and a weapon, and then I'll give it a tool, example of tool and a weapon, we can go back and forth because
Yeah.
almost anything can be used this way.
Yeah, well, I'll start off with the most obvious one, which was what you shared with me at the beginning, Rick, was the idea of a switchblade or a knife,
Mhm.
right? It can be used as a tool, can be used to build things, cut things, whatever else you may do with a switchblade. I'm not really a switchblade holder personally.
Or
Or,
make it open boxes, or it can help you
okay,
do work, or there's all kinds of options to it, right? Or like a
right.
hammer. A
Mhm.
hammer, you can, as a carpenter, you give hammer to a carpenter, they can build amazing things. But you give it to your teenage, nephew, he can destroy a whole wall for you. Like it can destroy or it could build.
Mhm.
We got into your hands. Your hands can create beautiful things. You can make music, you can write, you can create amazing things, but you can also make a fist. And you can do harm, or you can squeeze and you can grab and you can do horrible things with your hands. It's a tool or is it a weapon? What's
Yeah.
one of the ones that you can think of? This is one for you. You brought up a good one.
Yeah, I was talking about how your mind can be either a tool or a weapon. We can use it for good or for bad.
Even against ourselves, especially against ourselves. That's the whole point of our both of our podcasts is the way that one of your greatest tools is often weaponized against ourselves. We got
Yeah.
into this one. We said this. What is this? Is this a tool or is this a weapon? The
Yeah,
cell
I
phone.
mean,
For those of you who aren't seeing, we're live right now. So I'm holding a cell phone. Is it a tool or is it a weapon?
yeah, like all of the other things we've been talking about, it can be both just depending on how it's actually used and the intention behind that use.
hmm So let's talk about one. I've talked about multiple different psychology tools, and one of them we're getting into that seems a lot more. I'm glad to have Nicole on with is like the masculine, feminine, the polarization. Are you doing this energy, that energy, healthy, unhealthy? Are the judgments that come with it, the subjective point of views, how I think it should be, how you think it should be. All of these things that get weaponized very, very quickly, even if the intent is to build or create or do good things. So, Nicole, I defer to you first before I, of course, go on my rants like I do. What is your opinion then on like the polarization tool itself?
When you talk about polarization, we're talking about masculine and feminine energies.
Yes. Well, yeah, I
Well,
mean, it's like you go into politics or religion and stuff like that. I mean, just yeah, for polarization, are you being masculine, feminine polarization?
yeah, well, I think it's really become a buzzword in today's world. We are increasingly wanting to understand what is the masculine, what is the feminine, how can I as a man, be a masculine man and then as a woman, how can I be this feminine woman? But the thing is, in today's world, we're also playing duality of roles. So we need to be able to ebb and flow between the two. So if you're somebody who, let's say you're an ambitious woman and all you're doing is go, 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 working on the business, working on your career, whatever it may be, then a lot of the time we're operating strictly out of this place of masculine. And it becomes a challenge then when we're in a relationship and trying to create that polarity in the sense that how can I get into this state of receivership? How can I allow myself to be in flow and really create a partnership as opposed to almost like two alpha types butting heads, which I think we're seeing a lot of in the modern world.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially the if a female is in a masculine state, it's what would be like the biggest example, boss babe or something? Like what would be the example of like she's got it? Like what is what is that?
Yeah, I think boss babe is one of those terms that's floating around. At the same time, I hear about a lot of people in this boss babe space of trying to run their business and be this boss from the feminine, which is
Mhm.
interesting.
Help
Um,
me with this one. I haven't seen that yet, so I need your
oh,
opinion on this because I haven't seen that thing yet. What is that? So, like, as somebody who doesn't know, like, catch me like square one, me.
yeah. So, really, to sum it up, it's this idea of doing business, of going after your career goals, of being ambitious, but from this place of flow and openness to receive, I guess, as opposed to just push, push, hustle. So, a lot of the time, these women who are talking about being feminine in business are really anti hustle, grind, um, I guess like bro type language that tends to surround the ambitious space online. They're sort of going against that and bringing the feminine energy into how you go about doing business.
Can you give me an example of what that is? Like, if I said, "Hey, you got to be in flow," I'm like, "What does
Mm.
that mean? I don't know. How do I do it?" Like, I want to be in flow. Like, what does it mean? Just as far as this, like, I'm a boss babe, but I'm in flow. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, especially as a receiver who has to be a provider. Like, I don't. I'm trying to understand it.
Yeah, and I think that there is a little bit of trouble in this space in the sense that if you think about anything, it has to have that balance, including a business. So you can't just have a strictly feminine business. I mean, it has to have the structures in some way. There has to be daily things that you do, ways that you show up, or else you don't have a business if you were just floating your way through.
Mhm.
So I think that it's really about creating these structures that allow you to get into flow. So maybe that looks like instead of sitting down and forcing yourself to do a content calendar exactly ABC, you may instead set aside an hour for creation to allow yourself to be that creator. So, still with the intention of producing content, but in less of a structured masculine way.
All right, so just so I can try to repeat it back to make sure I get it.
Mhm.
So they have to have structure and things in place, but it's gonna have to like be a structure that gives flow, so that way they can have like a routine or a system that allows them to not call it a routine and system. Like I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, so that's really just my opinion of it. Like, I think that you have to have that structure. But when I
So
hear these women who are talking about feminine in business, it's really about how can we bring more of that flow, more of that creativity, more of that spontaneity into the day to day life of running the business.
okay. I'm gonna try and piggyback off of this and then see if we can bring it back to like a flow in business idea. Because I'll be open with you. I don't fully understand the concept yet.
Yeah.
So let's add another piece. If men are supposed to be the masculine is give and women are the feminine is receive. Another thing I've heard to add in, like aside from like the creativity and flow aspect of that hustle and grind aspect,
Mhm.
one thing I heard was like the masculine side would be more order, and the feminine side
Mhm.
would be more chaotic or more chaos, more logical versus more emotional. And
Mm.
I really do kind of want to challenge this idea of some of these labels to see like how do they really hold up, especially on the chaotic side. Now, I appreciate you trying to help me put these pieces of the feminine side together because it's always a different answer. So I never really know. Everybody has a very different answer for what like these subjective terms like flow or what receive or I am chaos. Like I try
Yeah.
to understand. What is your point of view on like this chaos point of view?
That's a great question. So, my view on chaos as being a part of femininity, I think a lot of the time when we think about chaos, we think about it with a negative connotation, like something's chaotic, she's off the wall, control, or something like that. But chaos to me is a lot more about diversity, about like a multitude of things happening all at once. And so it creates a lot more uh, enjoyment in life because we're not just strictly sticking to an ABC plan. Like if you think about if we knew exactly what was going to unfold in this conversation today, we'd be pretty bored throughout this conversation, knowing exactly where we're heading, exactly what either of us is supposed to say. But having a sense of chaos creates this ability for creation of something new. And if you think about the feminine essence, that really sums it up. Like we have this creative energy, and through that creation, chaos is a part of that. Out of chaos comes these new ideas. So
Yeah,
that's how
so
I think about it.
I like the idea of it being creative or creationary and making something new out of it, because order would be a system of control and
Yeah.
chaos would be something more wild, something more spontaneous. Now, the way I would even look at this is like, well, if I said you're the chaos in the relationship, is that good or is that bad then? Is it a tool or is it a weapon?
So I think that comes right back to what is the intention of that chaos? Like, am I just being chaotic to produce chaos in the relationship, like erupting at any time, needing various things, not setting expectations? All of that could create problems in the relationship. But a healthy amount of chaos could bring new, fresh things, excitement, energy that really will draw you and your partner together. So I think it could be used as a block, like a chaos block to sort of push apart and create problems, or it could be used in this creative chaos way to create more connection. Does that make sense?
Maybe. Let's do some examples. Let's do some
Okay.
examples, okay? All right, some positive chaos. If I bought you a present that's wrapped.
Mhm.
Now, order would be certainty. Order would be I know things. It's in control. I have these things. I'm good. I know I have a plan. It's going according to plan. Order and control. Well, now I gave you something that you can't see what it is. You don't know
Mm.
what you didn't know it was coming, and now there's a present for you to open, a gift.
Okay.
Now now you don't know, this could be good. Now, the intention could be like, is it gonna be something like, horrifying, like a human hand or something, this will teach you a lesson, a mafia gift or something? Or is it like, this is a person who loves you, and like, most likely it's gonna be something you like?
Mhm.
I don't know. So much chaos. So if I bought you a meaningful gift, not a terrifying gift, I bought you a meaningful gift, is that a part of this feminine flow, this energy of like chaos?
I see what you mean in the sense that there's a surprise aspect, but I don't know that I would consider it chaos.
Mm.
I think giving a gift and is just something that is more ordered. I've never really thought about that as if that would be feminine or masculine.
That's what I'm trying to play with it too. I'm like, let's see if things stick. All right.
Hmm.
What about super excited when you got home? Like you
Hmm.
weren't ready. You got home. It was a long day. Like, baby, you're home. And just, like that Dale Carnegie, greet people like a dog. You're home. Yay. I'm so excited that you're home. And I'm happy to see you. And
Aw.
then you get to jump in and be like, yes. And you just tackle. Now, some people will be like, oh my God, I wasn't ready for that. That's a lot. And they'll judge it in a very negative way. But
Yeah.
that's chaos. It's not like, "Good morning, dear. I have prepared you spaghetti. It is on the table, just as you ordered." Marinara on the side so you can add exactly the right amount that you like. Like, it's not
Hmm.
it's like, I wasn't ready. That was spontaneous." Or like, "Hey, let's go do something exciting." It's not really on the plan. "Let's go sledding." That's dangerous. We don't know the variables. There's too many options that could go wrong. Like, there's a
Yeah.
point where can chaos be spontaneous, surprising, exciting, happy, joyous? Can it be that direction?
I think it definitely in that direction. I would say that an essence of surprise is aligned with the chaos. What is my husband will always say, like, I have trouble wanting to surprise you or do something that's brand new because how am I supposed to know if you would like it? So this is a problem that arises from that chaos is since there's so many options, I think it's really important that you're intentional about the type of chaos that you're creating. Like you mentioned, oh, if you open this gift, is it going to be a hand cut off or some type of a mafia gift? That was not even in my thought process because I'm picturing receiving this gift from someone, either a friend or a family or a loved one. And that would not be even an essence of the chaos that I could expect.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna kinda go back to your husband on this one.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to know if you will like it? Like, if I got
Mhm.
you a gift, like, it's almost like there's a conditioning there, maybe in his past somewhere, even before you, it could have been, I don't know, where he got a gift for somebody and it wasn't received well, and so now he has to be extra cautious about giving gifts because he got a gift before, and I was like, "I don't like this." And you're like, "Oh, no. Now I have to be worried. How am I supposed to know if you're going to like it, even though it's supposed to be a surprise or it's supposed to be, feeding that uncertainty or unknown? But, it's technically not dangerous because your protector provider is like, I'm going to get you something spontaneous to nurture some of that naughty side or that excited side of you.
Mhm.
And you're like, but how am I supposed to know if you're going to like it? Unless there's something that happened to go like, sometimes you get something that I don't like. And if there's ever a bad experience to it, maybe we're training our people to be worried instead of excited.
Yeah, I think there's a multitude of factors there. There definitely could have been some time where maybe he did something sporadic for somebody and it was rejected or not received in the way that he wanted. But I also think part of this lays in my own responsibility in the sense that I will say, oh, I want more spontaneity or surprise me with something. But then I'm also very particular about exactly what I want and at the time that I want it. So this comes the time where a man could surprise this woman and be like, I'm going to take you out to dinner. This is something a lot of women are talking about in the space of like, I want this alpha masculine man who's like, I'm planning the dinner. Just get dressed. This is where we're going. But let's say you get there, it could be amazing, a steak dinner, and then you find out that the woman is vegan or something like that, right? Or it's chicken wings. I don't feel like chicken wings. Actually, I wanted beef today, like whatever it may be for that person. So I think there becomes this challenge of creating chaos for someone else in a way that it will be received positively.
Yeah, in which case, even in those examples, were you the
Mhm.
positive or negative chaos?
Hmm. I would say in those examples, I became the negative chaos if that was the actual situation. Let's say he had taken me out for wings. I'm pissed off that there's wings. Now I'm
Okay.
creating chaos in a situation that could be enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm doing the spontaneity. I'm doing the providing because I'm paying for it all. I'm doing the provisions. I'm making sure you're also safe and it's in a good environment. Like these are all wins. I'm doing my job in a very cool way. But your particular makes it so that my thoughtfulness, my generosity, and my kindness is now a burden because you didn't want chicken wings today. You're the chaos in the order. Now, is it positive or negative?
Yeah, and that's where I think we run into this spectrum of things and why relationships are actually facing so many problems is because we have these alternate expectations like, oh, I want you to surprise me, but then when you do surprise me, I'm not happy. Or on the other side of things, I want you to ask me for my permission, but I don't want to be the one running the whole show. So it's like, how do we find this balance in the relationship?
Well, it seems like a balance within oneself because I want
Hmm.
control so I can tell you how I want things to be. That's your masculine energy. But I
Yeah.
also don't want to be in control, but my particulars are a justification for my negativity.
Mm,
Hmm. Well, because I want it my way, I'm justified in treating you negatively because that's how I feel, as though
right.
feelings now supersede any type of agreement. A feeling now supersedes any type of golden rule or treatment you like to be treated as. And I want to be able to have you lead, but I'm going to nag, criticize, and berate your leadership instead of having gratitude and enjoyment and encouragement and appreciation. We go into do it with my particulars, but that's liable to change.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's an impossible battle to win or an impossible person. if you don't even know what it is that you want and can stick to that, then how is someone ever supposed to live up to your expectations, right? If it's constantly shifting.
Yeah, so let's say that the husband, I'm gonna take it off of your husband because I don't want to. It's not attack on you. It's just behavioral. So let's
Mhm.
say a husband who is doing all of this effort and he is doing the right things. He works all day and does a difficult job, and then he wants to take you on a date. That's a really nice dinner, but all these particulars in the way, like we left 5 minutes late, and I didn't want chicken wings. And how come you're wearing that shirt? And you got a little stain on your shirt. I can't take you anywhere. And you're missing all of the good things that are happening when any of those things could have been like, hey, we'll get there when we get there because we're being spontaneous anyways. And chicken wings, let's go. We're blessed enough to have food, and then like we get to choose our flavors, so that's your own bad if you don't like chicken wings. And then if you're gonna go into like, oh well, you got a stain, that's a Mentos moment we can laugh about and be like, you can be like, that's funny, you can stain your shirt and be like, twinsies. Like, it doesn't have to be such a negative nagging. But when women are going to go into a very unhealthy masculine controlling state, but then try and say they want to be treated like a princess, or I want to be treated like a queen, or I want to be pampered, or I want to be loved and cared for and reassured and safe and secure, and you take care of all the leadership stuff. But what kind of follower are you? Are you one that's fun, or are you one
Mm.
that creates like just doubt and tears down a guy who does good behavior because you're impossible to please? What does that do to a good one?
I mean, I would say that it's just going to eventually shut him down from doing all of the things that you actually want him to do because you're not fully seeing them and appreciating them. It's easy to have a situation happen and then just try to nitpick it, tear it apart for all the things that you wish happened, but that's coming back to a state of control. So I think that it's really important as women, especially if you're somebody who wants to be led, who wants your man to, take you out on a date and have it all be a surprise, to really get yourself in that state of receiving, of flowing, of just being in the moment. Because those times that come up where it's like back to the chicken wings things, like, why'd you take me for chicken wings? I wanted something else. That's just again trying to control.
Yeah. Your control, it seems like with some of these scenarios, those are the women out there who like had a guy who would do all these things, especially the beginning, very chivalrous, very outgoing, want to take you on lots of dates. How many of these moments does it take to really break a good guy from going, what am I doing this for? And having an answer that feels impossible to please, something that makes it feel like, man, I'm really kind of at a loss here. All of my romance, all of my kindness, all of my generosity is now turned into a negative chaos. It's turned into like, now I have wounds from trying to love. And this is where I find it more dangerous with this chaos is how justifiable it is. Like the justifications as to like, well, because I was emotion and my emotions deserve validation. Well, at what cost to his emotions? Well, he's supposed to be a leader, so he shouldn't have those emotions. I'm like, so you just created an entire system to dehumanize a person so that you can be as cruel as you like? You can be the chaos. If it was the other end, you're like, I want to take you on a date and I want to do something really nice. And all he did was complain and bitch and like this, I hate this and I don't like these foods. And why would I ever want to do this? And I wish you would have just done a good job at this. And you're like, how often do you want to go like, oh, next time I'll just do better? You can be like, I don't think I can win here.
Yeah, and then it just becomes that a losing battle. So I think what this comes down to is actually getting on the same page with your partner, fully communicating what's happening because otherwise we're always going to run up against these battles with one another. It a lot of the time just arises out of a misunderstanding. We may want the exact same thing, right? He wanted to make you happy by taking you on the surprise date, and you want to enjoy the date, but something switches where there becomes a disconnect between
Mhm.
you and that person. So I don't even think it's really either person to blame. It's just, are we working together as partners here? Or are we just really in it for our individual positive feelings, whatever it may be?
I like the question. How would you answer this to make it so it makes sense?
How would I answer the
That
question?
question you just asked, like, are we working together or are we communicating? Like, how would you answer this? Like, well, I want to do that, Nicole. How would I do it? It's
How do
tricky.
you create that communication? Yeah, it is tricky. And I think a lot of the time it's because we don't even have that communication with ourselves. We don't even truly know what makes us happy. So then how is somebody else supposed to make us happy if we don't even know what's going to make us happy moment to moment?
Well, damn it. So now it really has become an impossible to please moment. You are now chaos. You are the chaos. Now, is it
Mm.
tool or weapon? Is it a tool that creates spontaneity and excitement and fun and Mentos moments, if you will? You know what I'm talking about with Mentos moments, right? Yeah.
No.
Okay. So there was I'm gonna sidebar us for a second. The Mentos actually had a really good marketing campaign for a while where like things would go catastrophically wrong. You pop a Mentos and then you roll with it. And so it's like one of those things. So for example, a dude will like sit down on a park bench in his nice suit. And
Mm.
the park bench was just painted white. And so now he's got white stripes on his suit, and he's like, "Oh, damn it." He's like, "Papa Mentos," and then he started rolling all over the park bench. That way now his suit is now pinstripe suit. And it's like
Yeah.
Mentos, the fresh maker. You know, the thing where like, "Oh, I spilled some stuff on my shirt." And you're like, "Oh, dang." So you take your shirt off, you roll it in a ball, you spill a bunch of stuff on it, pull it out and shake it out, and now you got a tie-dye shirt. The fresh maker. You know, one of those like life goes crazy, roll
Mhm.
with it. Now I got a coffee
Yeah.
stained like tie-dye shirt. That's just cool. Like one of those things where it's like roll with it. So
Mhm.
when I say like, are you rolling with it? Are you gonna be like, hey, you got a stain on your shirt? Twinsies. Now we both do. So if someone wants to criticize you, they can criticize both of us. Go ahead.
Mhm.
I got you, babe. One of those like, are you spontaneous and exciting and fun? Or are you like, God, you're such a fucking slob and I can't take you anywhere. You're like, I didn't plan on this was not part of my like get sauce on my shirt plan. This wasn't to get you. Slow down there. What kind of energy is there? Is it like I'm having fun with you, or I'm just going to tear you down for something that wasn't even deliberate?
Mm.
Now, that's what I mean by that. How do we communicate these things in a better way? Well, give me the communications tactics because I do see a major flaw, but I just want to see what you see first.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, when we talk about this communication, I think what it comes down to is really being a team with that partner. So when you gave that example of the stain, right? Oh, I can't take you anywhere because you have that stain. That's actually saying nothing about the person with the stain and only something about the person who's complaining because now they're getting secondhand embarrassment, their ego's getting bruised, and you are supposed to be maybe uplifting me and making me look better, but now you're making me look worse, quote unquote, if you're not watching these on video, you know. But really, it's not about that person having a stain. It's about you feeling embarrassed about the stain. Whereas if you go into it with this intention of we are a team and we are here to have a good time together, no matter what, then you'd be more likely to, all right, I'm going to stain my shirt too. Or what comes to mind for me is that image from The Office, one of my favorite scenes. If you've watched The Office, the sitcom, Jim is coming to see Pam because she's crying. She has her ripped veil. It was the one thing that she could control on
Oh,
her
yeah.
wedding day. He just goes and cuts
And he
the
cuts the
tie.
tie. Yeah, so
That
good.
is the example of actually working together as a team. There was no verbal communication that happened there, but there was an understanding on a basic level, like we are in this together. We are here to have a good time together, not oh, now you have a ripped veil. You were supposed to be my beautiful bride and now you're embarrassing me.
You
Didn't go
ruined
to
the
lengths for.
wedding. It's one of those
If he
things
took
that are
his ego, right?
represent yeah, a representation of like it's not supposed to be perfect, so let's be happy with it.
Mm.
And I think this is one of those things when it comes to order and chaos. We found this when we work with people, the perfectionism, people who are perfectionists. We pointed out one of my warriors pointed out to one of my perfectionists. That's like, have you noticed that you perfectionists create the most chaos? It's ironic that you want everything to be perfect and in order and done right, but in your effort to not do it just perfect, you create the most disorder in the entire, like the whole area, the whole room, everything,
Yeah.
because even for like the type 1 enneagram, the perfectionist, the curse or the sin is wrath. They're so angry and so critical and so mean, especially to themselves, and outwardly project that. The perfectionist, the one who it has to be done just right, create the most chaos.
Mm.
And it's irony because they want it to be the most in order and they are the reason it's not.
Yeah. It's like the paradigm of the perfectionist. And I would argue too, when I think about perfectionists, a lot of the time, perfectionism also comes with the trait of being a people pleaser, especially amongst women. I find that these go hand in hand a lot. And I feel like the paradigm here, or the irony, is that you're trying to make everything perfect. And then in that sense, you're focusing on the 1% that's not, right? Creating that chaos while you're trying to create control. And on the pleasing side of things, you're trying to please everybody else, but then you're never actually pleased yourself.
You're not wrong, but there's more.
Mm,
So like that's in my next book I'm writing on, like I'm going farther into the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and you're talking about fawning.
yeah.
And so like that bargaining aspect of things, which is the people pleaser, that I'll sacrifice me to make sure you're okay. I actually take your emotions on as my emotions, as my responsibility. So if you're angry, what do I have to do to make you not angry? It's a very interesting system. Fawning
Hmm.
is really not, it's not recognized as much as it should be, and that's why it goes under the radar often. But it's a bargaining system of me trying to compromise myself so that you're okay. um just to give you an idea of like what does that mean, I know the psychologists, they've said that if fight and flight is a version of hitting the gas, and then freeze would be hitting the brakes, well fawning is hitting both at the same time. I'm moving towards the danger to try to control the danger by stopping me from being me so you can be happy and not destroy. So you see this in abusive relationships often.
Okay.
Oh, he's going to be so angry. He's going to be angry. I got to do whatever I can to make him not angry.
Hmm.
Whatever it is, I got to make him okay. I got to make him okay. And he'll be smashed and stuff. It's okay. And they move towards, call it protecting others, or, calming the situation down. But a lot of times we'll take on damage from that, and this is ironically and sadly, the number is actually starting to flip flop where more guys are falling into this than women. Like this is where I would say this chaos thing used as a positive or negative. Ladies are given more power, more freedom than ever in history, ever.
Mm,
And how is it being used? Well, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's being used as that positive chaos. It's being more like a boss babe is mean.
mm,
And now we're polarizing now. Is this a tool or is this a weapon? And the communication now for like the blame, the shame, and the judgment has now gone off the rails with no consequence. There's no stopping women, because before, who used to regulate women? Other women. Well, that's off the table. Now it's glorified. Bad behavior is now like, you go, girl, you go get it. And it's like, wait a second. It used to be like not okay with that, 50 years ago.
mm,
Now that used to be bad behavior. Now it's good behavior. Even before that, not condoning, but also saying before that, anybody who fucked around got punched in the face, guy or girl. It was, you get fucked up. Like everybody did. And girls
mhm,
don't get punched as well from guys as they think. And so guys took that off the table. I think women forget that. Who self regulated men and women? Men regulated men, women regulated women. That was the way that it worked. It wasn't the other way around, as much as people want to try and blame it. Guys are
mm,
like, don't hit girls. Remember, don't hit girls came from guys telling guys. Girls didn't
right,
stop guys. They couldn't. Guys
right.
stopped guys. And then women like, hey, don't be overly promiscuous and put yourself out there and do all that stuff. Well, that was women regulating women. That was, guys didn't care. It's our benefit, right?
Yeah.
That was women regulating women. So who
Hmm.
regulated? Well, that all stopped. Well, now guys can't hit in the face anymore. We took that off the table. Women took the judgment, shame, and use the legal system to say, if you do, then you have to take punishment from other men. We'll make sure of it. So
Hmm.
now there's no regulation that side, and women are now glorified for bad behavior as a boss babe, or running your business on OnlyFans. And you're like, whoa, wait a second here. This used to be not glorified. And now those are both bad behaviors that are now, you go, girl, you get it. And they were like, wait a
Yeah.
second, like, what is happening now with our communication? What's happening now with our misunderstandings? What's happening in this polarization when like it's turned into madness and flip-flopping, and who's really being the one who's being the chaos? Who's
Mm.
really the control anymore. I want a masculine, strong man. What kind of woman do you think a masculine, strong man wants? What kind of
Mhm.
chaos does he want you to bring? How do we communicate about that? I'm gonna go into the hard thing on this one. I'm gonna
I
go I know it was a lot of information. I just kinda bombed right there a little.
I've got a question for you too. I don't know if you're going to change topics, but
Okay,
along this line here of people pleasing, and we kind of started off talking about
fair enough.
perfectionism, which is how we went down that road. So you mentioned that people pleasing is part of the fawn response, which I would agree. Where would you say perfectionism lies then?
I'm actually first off, thank you for keeping us back on topic. 'Cause, like, I do know that I can go just topic, 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 so fair enough. So back to alright, perfectionism. Perfectionism is actually, probably gonna go into if I really had to be really hard on somebody, it's a
Mm.
lack of confidence. And what I mean by that is if you have to be perfect, you can't accept. You're
Right.
missing the acceptance piece of some things are. You know, even if you were to be even more literal, God doesn't build in straight lines. You know, if you look at like the way that things are built, God doesn't build things in straight lines. They're fluid and curvy and they're mountainous or whatever it would be. It's not usually perfect lines.
Yeah.
But to be perfect, we have to start calling things that are already perfect imperfect. It's a judgment system, a judgment usually based on feeling not good enough or not feeling worthy. In which case, another mention that came up in the movie The Last Samurai, the samurai leader was looking at the cherry blossom tree and going, I've always my whole life been searching for the perfect cherry blossom, searching for the perfect cherry blossom, and I haven't found it yet. And then when he was like dying and he was looking at the cherry blossom tree, is like, now I get it. They were all perfect the whole time. It was me who was judging it incorrectly. Again, I would lean it back into, are you confident enough to be able to accept things as they are without a judgment of imperfection to say it's not good enough? Because sometimes your best is just what it is. That was your
Yeah.
best, and that's great. That's your perfect cherry blossom for the day. Why, like, keep doing what you can, but I think this is what keep doing difficult things and being proud of yourself for overcoming something hard instead of saying, I did something hard, but not as good as it could be, so it wasn't good anymore. This shows a insecurity. It shows a lack of acceptance and a lack of understanding of oneself, which then goes back to perfect is something other than me.
Mhm.
Perfect is something other than myself. And if that's where you end up standing, well, then perfectionism really is just glorifying how, I guess, insecure you are, how
Mm.
unconfident you are, because it's not trying to work towards a goal with progress. It's tearing yourself down for your progress because it's not perfect. Well, then you're never ever going to be the perfect cherry blossom when right now you already are. It's just which version of you is being authentic. And this is where people are really fucking up is they think authenticity is trying to be what other people tell them to be.
Mm.
If you try to fit in and belong, well, then are you being authentic? I'm
Right.
just enhancing myself. It's like, hold on a second. Are you being you or are you being what you think somebody else thinks you should be?
Mm.
Well, I'm still me. I'm just doing it the way that they said I should do it. Interesting justification system. I think perfectionism really comes down to an exposure of lack of self worth and a lack of knowing thyself. Happy to be challenged on this one, though.
No, I completely agree with you that it would come down to that insecurity. But what's curious to me is how it could play into this fight, flight, freeze, fawn response in the sense that as a perfectionist, a lot of the time we use this as a way to create control over situations that feel scary.
Yeah.
Right? So I would almost argue that in a way I see it as it could be a way of fighting or preventing potential conflict because if I'm perfect, if I do this thing perfectly, then the boss won't get mad at me. If I cook dinner perfectly, my husband won't hit me. And by the way, my husband does not hit me, but I'm just using an example.
Sure. Sure.
Right? So this perfectionism as a defense mechanism.
You use all of them. This is where people get mixed up is we use all of them.
Mm,
So the perfectionism stuff, you're starting off first off with the denial aspect of like, I have to be something other than I am. This is some sort of a suppression, some sort of a hiding, some sort of retreat system to make it so, like, whatever I need to be for you to be okay, I will deny myself my authenticity to make it so that you are all right. We start with denial.
Mhm.
Then we go with the bargaining aspect of it. This is where your fawning starts going in, and you start getting into, like, well, if I start acting this way, and if I start doing this, then he'll be okay. And if I was only this good, and if I was that way, and this is a bargaining system we start using within ourselves to people please. If I sacrifice myself this way, then they'll be happy. And if I stop being who I am, then they'll be okay. That's the sacrifice or the fawn, the people pleasing part. Then we go
Okay.
into the fight part. Well, that's not working. So it's either going to be fight or it's going to be surrender. It's going to be the freeze aspect, the sadness part. So it's the anger or sadness. That's where we're going next. Well, we know what sadness looks like. That's the freeze system. That goes into
Mhm.
like surrender, shut down. Like I don't want to fight anymore. I'm done. I'm so done. I quit. I give up. Whatever. It's fine. I'm done. Like that's surrender. Well, that
Mhm.
only works so far because then you just get cornered and then you're cornered and things are going even more bad. Well, there's going to be some sort of, well, hey, shutting down and trying to people please and running away and all the denial that's not working. So back the fuck off of me turns into the next thing. There's going to be some system of control on each of these. These are all coping mechanisms. And the reality is we kind of jump
Yeah.
around situationally. So it doesn't matter if you're a perfectionist or if you're, any personality type, each one uses all. We just have our go-tos. These are our main ones. I'd argue that everybody starts with denial. I think
Mm.
denial is the most clever of all. Like, I think everyone starts with denial and then goes into the other pieces. They start off with, I'll just stop being what I am in some way, shape, or form. I'll suppress, I'll repress, I'll push down my authenticity. I'll stop being what I am first and then
Mm.
go into the fawning aspect, then go into the people pleasing, then go in because you can't be authentic and then start going into fawning. Because if you were really
Okay.
being true to you, you wouldn't have anything you're sacrificing for them. You would just have boundaries at that point. Well, a
Right.
lack of self-esteem and a lack of confidence to be able to be authentic is going to make it so you start giving up and surrendering parts of who you are. So another person who's also not healthy and not okay will just be less not okay, as though you are responsible for their feelings and emotions. So you change yourself to make it so that they're not them. So
Mm.
that's all of it. And if it doesn't work, you'll be sad and depressed. And then if that doesn't work, you'll lash out or you get angry and you get pissed off. We go
Mm.
through all of them. Everybody does. It's just what's your go-to. Yours might go into fawning. Mine will start off with suppression and repression until it goes to expression. I can't show sadness, so anger is how we cry. So it go into anger.
Mhm.
Control. All of it's control.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting, and what comes to mind for me here is this idea of authenticity. Well, how is someone supposed to be fully authentic? And this is something I really admire about you is you show up, you're ready to get controversial, you got your opinions, but you don't just talk the talk on these podcasts. You're also, walking it out with your warriors. But when we think about this idea of being authentic to ourself, like who even is ourself? Because we were created by two other people and then raised by a myriad of other people.
Mhm.
So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. How do you get past all of this conditioning and layers to fit in, to be in relationship, to be a part of the world?
Mhm.
To fully be authentic? Or is
There's
it even possible?
well, I think it's possible. It's just not going to
Mm,
be fully accepted by everyone, and this is where people's insecurities will get in the way. There's
okay.
one word that I'm getting to for no matter what it is for any of these conversations that we come back into, all of the stuff that we just talked about, like every piece here comes down to one word that we don't like. It's truth. We
Mhm,
think we like that word. We think we like it, but we don't
mhm,
like it. I'll
mm,
give you I'll give you the example. If you watch any other podcasts I've been on or a lot of the writing I'm doing, when it comes to truth, many people, especially I haven't met a woman yet who doesn't do it, who hasn't been extremely humbled by the world. I mean, by humbled, like everything I do is fucked up. Give me a new way. Like rock bottom humbled, which is extremely rare, by the way.
mm.
Women have a justification system that is so emotional, it's off the charts, and denial is the main piece, which is why I say the hypothesis is most women gaslight their own introspection, which means they do not tell the truth about what they're really doing. Like when you go like, I'm doing it, it's called something different. If another woman is wearing too much makeup, she's being really fake. But if you wear
Mm.
makeup, it's accentuating. You know, if she's trying too hard, she's just trying to get attention and she's whatever, pick a judgment. But if you're
Mhm.
doing it, well, I'm just being what I like to be and it just makes me feel pretty. It's like, wait a second, like you guys are doing the same thing, but when you do it, it's something totally good. But when they do it, it's something totally bad. We can't be honest with what you're doing is the same thing here. And so, how many times do we break the golden rule, but with impunity? I'm the chaos in the relationship. I'm going to ruin this date, but it's his fault for not being a good date planner. We gaslight the truth. We don't tell the truth to ourselves. No, you're the
Yeah.
chaos that makes dates bad. Well, if you did that, like if it was the other way around, you planned the date and someone treated you exactly how you treated you or treated him,
Mm.
you would be like, this guy's a monster. He's terrible. That's a bad person. He's a narcissist or he's a sociopath. We'll just pick a judgment, pick a title. We'll give him a name, right? But he
Right.
just did what you do. So what do you call you? Um, I just don't like chicken wings. He should know that. And I don't eat chicken wings after 7:30. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. Well, when did you start that? Yesterday? Everybody knows. Nobody knows. So this is the chaos part where the truth. That's why when we're going back to we need to communicate the misunderstanding. I'm like, well, the thing is we can't handle the truth. Most people
Mm.
can't. This is where your husband's saying, how am I supposed to know if you're gonna like it? Well, because if you don't, I don't know if I can handle you not liking it. The truth would bum me out.
Mm.
People having denial within themselves. What is authenticity? How am I supposed to be authentic? Who am I really? Well, you've been lying to you probably since you were around 10 or 11 years old. Soon as they start comparing you to others, especially women, the reason why all women have this is because the burden of beauty has created a sense of comparison. Ever since you started becoming from little girl to woman, right around early, like 10 to 12, is usually when now the pressure starts turning on that you are now transitioning to be something else. And now you have to wear makeup or you have to look a certain way or you have to start dressing different. You have to get, boys start becoming interesting. Things start to change.
Yeah.
Well, at that point, you start getting compared now. Now, it used to be local comparison. It used to be like, the school, or it used to be where you work, or it used to be the community, or it used to be where like there's this the city or whatever. It used to be like a small area that your comparison circles were. Well,
Mhm.
now your comparison circles are global. It went from a few hundred to now billions.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very different level of comparison. So authenticity now turns into fitting in with what trend, and I would argue that trends affect women way more than men.
Mm.
Like because I have hundreds of guys. I'm like, how many of you are falling into this trend? They're like, there's a trend. We don't do that. Especially a healthy alpha isn't trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Mm.
I don't care. I'm leading by example. I don't give a shit. You can't show me a Calvin Klein ad that makes me need to go buy that underwear. I don't care. I don't give a shit at all. You can't convince me that that's a thing that I need to do. The only person that can convince me is my girl. It's the only person, and she's highly influenced by outside sources. Conundrum. Who's
Mm.
authentic now? She's trying to keep up with the Joneses. I only care about her opinion. And so she's never good enough because she's comparing herself to that post, that post, this person's opinion, that person at work, this person said that rumor, this opinion, that judgment, all of these things. And all I want is my girl to be happy, but she's not happy because she's comparing herself to everyone else trying to keep up with all of these trends and fads and what's supposed to be in or out. It's ironic too. And you can listen, you can attest because if you go back to the 90s having a fat ass, not good, ladies, right? But what's it
Mhm.
like in 2023? Fat ass, in or out?
In.
N, fat ass is W today. Let's go. But you take that same thing, even 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you're supposed to be some model size zero, but now it's like thick is winning. So it's like, which trend is correct? Which one is right? And don't you start seeing, like, wait a second, authenticity is based on approval of others or judgments of others? Wait a second. Where does authenticity come from? Well, now it's because the fad works in my favor. I like it. Well, were you not good before? And based on what? Well, other people didn't like it then, but now that they like it, now I'm good.
Mm.
What is authenticity if we have this system at all? It's still based on external points of view validating whether you are good and or not good, but it's not internal saying my self-esteem is from self if my self-esteem is from others. It's called self esteem for a reason. It's not my self-esteem is based on others. That's other esteem. That's others' esteem, not
Yeah.
self-esteem. And so authenticity comes from having the courage to accept who you are when others will not.
Mm.
And this is why I see women struggle the most, is because the second biggest thing is approval for women. And most of the time, it's not approval from men, it's approval from other women. I've seen women get dolled up 10 times more for going out with their girls than a date with their guy.
Yeah, it's true.
It's that approval system from each other. Now, this is where the argument is, and Nicole, this is the truth part.
Mm.
Why do women do that? Because they're so secure.
It arises from this place of insecurity and the need to fit in. So that would be the opposite of secure.
So if a woman is like, I want to be loved, appreciated, liked, and treated well for who I am, and yet when they go to hang out with their friends or their other people, like the women in their group, and they have to completely change themselves in almost every capacity, longer eyebrows, different eye shape, different contour, different hair, extensions, the eyelashes, the lip color, the blush, the long nails, push up bra, the waist trainer, the booty lifter, the high heels. Like at some point, you go, which part of you is actually you? And
Mm.
that's not even including any augmentations. That's just like removable items. You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
like, at what point is authenticity really on the table here when you have to change yourself so much to be approved of? How can I accept who you really are if when we were on a date, you look one way, and as soon as we get home and you take a shower, a different human being walks out in almost every capacity?
Mm.
That would be like you meeting your husband and he's like, he's got his big muscles and he looks great. And then he goes to the shower in his muscle suit. He takes his muscle suit off and now he's just a skinny little, he's Jack Skellington coming out. And you're like, what just happened? Because the stuff that I just liked about you is gone. What just happened? He's like, oh no, that's just for dates. That's not, I'm not, that's not really me.
Right. Yeah, no, I see how that we get away from that authenticity because we're trying to fit in, seek approval, and it arises from that comparison. But what I think about here is like, okay, now what about the woman or man who says, I don't care about fitting in? I would actually rather be the opposite of fitting in, right? We've all seen someone like that who, if the crowd's going right, I'm going left.
Sure. Now, this is
Is that
also a
authentic?
part. Well, it may or may not be because there are personality types, especially my individualists or type fours, who naturally try to be the opposite. The only issue is a lot of times is they want to be different from other people, but I also want you to approve of me. That's the
Mm.
conundrum. That's the contradiction. I want to
Right.
be the exact opposite of you, but I still want you to accept me for who I am. That's the that's the hardest battle that they have is like that part. Now there are people who are full rebels and they don't care. They really don't. And that's okay too. But then it turns into the authenticity of it. Do you have a real chip on your shoulder or do you have love and acceptance and approval for others simply because you actually do love and like and approve of yourself? And I think this is the part that gets really tricky for people. That's the part that's the hard part. That's why you have to do the real work on yourself is because if you think about these love relationships and communication and chaos and what we're adding for positive and negative and polarization and who am I really and do you accept me and authenticity, well, all of these things, they all get muddied up, muddied up real bad by all of our belief systems and fears and justifications that we're not enough. We want to be
Yeah.
approved of so much, but to be authentic, you're going to have to say, I actually really love me and like me, and I'm good with me. And if you can't really honestly and truthfully with truth, without augmentation, without changing, without altering, without keeping up with the Joneses, without, thinking you're not good enough or comparing yourself to the post or changing who you are in some way, shape, or form, and feel like that's really what I like for me, not because of anybody else. How is somebody supposed to love you when you most of the time don't even like you? This is an interesting thing that I watch happen. I want them to love me and appreciate me and approve of me, but I don't like me, love me, or approve of me. Well, how are others supposed to do something for you that you don't even know how to do for yourself? And the sad part is you know you better than anyone else does, and you don't like you, and you don't love you, and you don't appreciate you, and you don't approve of you, and you're not okay with being just you. And yet other people are supposed to do this thing who know less.
Mm.
This is why knowing thyself is so important. That's why I do what I
Yeah.
actually do.
No, I love that you help people to find their authentic selves because without it, we're just living as other people and really for other people.
Mhm.
I'm going to add one more question in here for you because I'm curious about this. So, when we think about being authentic, now we've been talking about comparison. So, if you're being authentic to yourself, you're doing things because you're not doing it from a place of trying to fit in, of trying to be approved. Now, when we think about like a gemstone, right? What makes a crystal authentic? What makes a gem authentic? We aren't comparing it to the inauthentic ones. There's certain criteria that make it authentic that we can tell that it's authentic,
How
right?
what
So,
are the criteria? Give me an idea.
well, I'm not a gemologist, but maybe the idea is a certain chemical composition or how it was made or a certain color spectrum that it fits within.
All right. Does the way that it's cut and the way that it's shaped matter?
No.
So if they just found a big raw block of just deformed diamond or emerald or amethyst or pick a stone, doesn't matter. Like a big
Mhm.
deformed version of it, it's just a mess.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Or do they cut it into very specific angles and now it is judged as more valuable? Like
Okay, I
your
am
diamond ring, for example, is not just a block. It's cut in
right.
a specific shape.
Right. They cut it in a specific shape to make it more desirable to stand out from the crowd. It goes back to marketing and then now we're back into comparison, but the
Correct.
fact of the matter is that a raw diamond and a cut diamond, like a cut diamond could be a lab diamond,
Mhm,
right? Whereas an uncut one maybe it's authentic, but it that doesn't take away from its authenticity.
mhm.
Do you know
So
what
if
I
we're
mean? Like, it's
so
either an authentic diamond or it isn't.
well, this is the part where how do you know somebody is good enough?
Mm.
Because a lot of times we feel not good enough. How do we know? This is again gets into the 90s thing to now. Like, you're a woman, and I haven't met one yet who hasn't done this. Did you ever feel like you're not good enough? Especially
1,000%.
especially when it comes to burden of beauty. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not this enough. My hair's not long enough. My pick a feature you like or don't like. My eyes are good, but I hate this. I hate my neckline or I hate pick a thing. Girls are so critical of themselves. The stuff that guys don't even notice or care about, girls will tear themselves apart about and feel not good enough. But what if the trend changes and exactly how you are? Let's just say you right here, that's the new trend. Like Nicole's the new standard. That's the new in your exact body shape, whether it's flawed or not flawed. That's the new hot. That's what everyone wants to attain. If you're too skinny, you're trying to get to Nicole's size. If you're too fat, you're trying to get to Nicole's size. You're just trying because you're you're not enough. You are too much. You're just trying to get to you. You're the standard.
Mhm.
Well, how would you feel about you if all of a sudden you were considered perfect? Everyone agrees you're the new perfect. What would that do to you?
Well, the first reaction that I say is I think it would probably boost my self-esteem because if other people want to, be like you, then there must be something good about you. But the other thing that comes to mind when you say that is even if I am this now perfect standard, am I actually authentically me though? Or did I create this standard that now got adopted by everybody else, right? So it's still this idea of how do we come back to ourself at our rawest form when even before we were put into the world, we are operating out of this place of comparison and fitting in and being a part of the human race.
So even if you are considered perfect by everyone else, you would still find some flaw. Well, am I
Uh
really being authentic enough? Am I really being who I really am? Am I really being me when what I am now is was it really authentic to begin with that made me perfect by other people's standards? So even if you're considered perfect by others, you'd still find a flaw in yourself.
I see how it comes across that way. That's less what I meant.
Okay, what did you
Although
mean?
I do think that that would happen likely because we live in a state of comparison. But I mean, like, even if I was that perfect, like, or if anybody was, like, how do we know that that person is being authentic to themselves?
That would be a
Like,
personal question. So I would say, how would you know if
okay,
right now you were just people who don't know you, they don't even know you, just say
yeah,
you're the new perfect. You're the new perfect. They don't know you
okay.
though. How would it affect you? These are other people. They don't even, there's other people's opinions. There's
Mm,
millions of them. Multiply it by millions, billions even. The world says Nicole is the new face of hotness, and like you're the thing. What would that do? What would that do to your authenticity? What would that do? Would you have to now live up to your own standard? Would you now have to try to maintain some standard that you're like, holy shit, like I was actually kind of working on my shit that day. And that's what people want me to be like. Can I maintain this weight? Can I maintain this look? Can I maintain my own standard? Can I maintain? And then what happens when you pull yourself a whole felicity and you go and like, I'm gonna get a haircut and see if I like it. And everyone hates it and cancels your shit, then what
mm.
happens? Like is it really because of you or because you created a look that then people judged as that's what I like or we like, or somebody says that's the like you should like? Who are you allowed to be when everyone tells you what you are is perfect? And how long does that last?
Yeah, and I think it comes back to this idea that we said at the beginning how perfect is really just a judgment. So even if you said, okay, Nicole is perfect, I would immediately start judging, okay, what about Nicole is perfect? And then it comes back to, again, all these external things. Is it the hair, or maybe my tone of voice, or whatever it may be? But all of that is still separate from the authentic, true soul of the person.
Correct. So now we're seeing that if we have a comparison curse at all and you're trying to be perfect, you are in a absolute fail system even if you get it right.
Yes, and how do you expect someone to completely leave this state of comparison while living in human form on the earth? I guess is my question, which is maybe an impossible question.
Well, maybe it's not. Let's
Mm,
try and answer it. How many yous are there?
one,
There's only one you. How many you
sure.
has there ever been in the past? How many exactly who you are has there ever been?
Just me,
Just
except for in
you.
the multiverse.
Well, I mean, pending still, they're very different yous in the multiverse.
This is true.
And some of you didn't make it.
Yeah.
So even if we go that version of it, but let's keep it just here for now. How many
Mhm.
you in this multiverse are there going to be after you're gone?
None.
None. So you're the only you that's ever existed throughout all history, and you're the only you that'll ever exist in the future. How is that rare, amazing, beautiful, spectacular thing not unique? How is it not perfect? You're the only you there's ever been and the only you that'll ever be. So compared to what?
Mm.
if we can have that acceptance of our authenticity, that I'm the only me that's ever been. I should be fucking great at being that.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but what comes to mind for me is, well, then even if I'm the only one and I am unique, am I authentic? Like you could have a going back to the idea of gemstones, you could have a man-made, this was the only one where we've ever done it under this pressure and this chemical composition and it's perfect in this way and it's unique, but it wasn't like made from the earth. It's not an authentic gem.
That's based on people's opinions. Does it still sparkle and do you like it? It's
So
like
I guess
saying,
you're
like,
saying to get back to our
you ever seen chandeliers that aren't real diamonds? Like really like
yeah.
authentic, like really crazy, and then they're authentic, just really like immaculate, like over the top chandeliers.
Yeah.
But they're all like just shiny glass.
Mhm.
But they look awesome. They look amazing. Like it's beautiful. Like it really ties the room together. Doesn't have to be a diamond for it to look cool. But also, like, there's a lot of things that like we are that's like that's still pretty great. It doesn't always have to be this ridiculous thing that's based on other people's opinions. I'll give you an example. I've talked to like famous people and I've worked with people who are successful, very, very successful, multimillionaires, very successful, whose lives are shit shows. It's total fucking madness. Like, what they have all of these things just right, but they're not the perfection people think that they have. They're not that. They can't even live up to their own hype.
Mm,
So, at what point is like the judgments of others supersede the reality of what somebody's authenticity is? I think that if we keep bringing in another person's point of view is somehow accurate, the what they
mm.
see of you is somehow an accurate point of view. You are in a constant fail system. Let's just go ahead and math it out real quick. You've been on a personal development journey. How much, if you were really being honest, do you say, like percentage wise, I truly know myself?
Yeah, so when you asked me this
You
question the
remember,
last time we spoke,
you were like
I said,
900%.
"No," I said 0%. And the reason that I said that is actually coming back to this same conversation that we're having now of how do I know what is me? Because yeah, you say, "Oh, well, you're 100% unique. Are you the only one now? Or are you the only one before?" Yes, and like what version of me because I've been molded into this Nicole that I am now
Mhm.
that's taken me far away from the true essence of who I am, right? As we all do. So how do we know like what is truly authentic?
Good. Here's a tool that I want to give everybody the tool for. And I
Mm.
actually think I'll be doing a TED talk on this soon.
Oh.
We need to have this tool, this thing that society doesn't like and people will also shame and judge and put down because it doesn't work in their favor for controlling you.
Mm,
We need to challenge everything, especially within ourselves. Is that really my belief system or is it really not? Is that mine or is it not mine? Is that somebody else's opinion or is it really my belief? And we need to challenge where do things come from and is it authentic or not authentic within ourselves? And you can tell by the way that it feels. You can tell like that really feels good. And I've had those conversations where I'll dig in, dig in, dig in. I go, like, how does that feel? And they're like, man, that feels right on. That feels spot on. That's exactly what it is. It's not my dad's opinion. It's not my mom's opinion. It's not my ex's opinion. It's not my spouse's opinion. That's mine. That's really mine. And you have to dig and challenge. And one of the weapons that we use for that is the hardest letter in the alphabet. It's the letter Y. Well, why is that there? Well, why do you do that? Why do you continue to perpetuate that belief system? Why did you even agree to that belief system? We start going in, it starts getting very challenging. Why is a challenging letter? It makes people get on the defense very, very quickly. And even it's just a little twang can change the whole thing. Like, why'd you wear that necklace today? Like, if you remove that twang, it's just a question like, why that necklace? Like, you're like, well, I had 500 to choose from. I chose the blue one. Like, the question itself isn't actually negative, but I throw a little twang on there. And now you're
yeah.
like, "Oh, should I get rid of this necklace? I got other ones. I can switch it out. I can just you don't like this one?" Like, no, all I did was threw a little stank on it. "Why'd you
Mhm.
wear the blue one?" Like, That's just ends with a question mark, but that little stink I threw on there made it so now it's a little bit like it feels like a judgment
Mm,
when technically it's just a question. And so challenging everything to go like, well, what's your intention for asking? Why did you ask it that way? Is it because you have an opinion about this? But just because they do, you can also reserve the boundaries within yourself to say, well, I decline having to agree with you that you don't like this. This is one of my favorite necklaces, even if it's not yours.
mm,
You know what I mean? We're allowed to do that. And I think that there comes down to an agreeableness that women have that this challenge everything has become very difficult for women. Guys
mm.
catch on very quickly. When I work with men, they're like, okay, I can use that, especially inward. We do not gaslight ourselves nearly as much as women do. Guys come in with more shame than blame. How come I can't make her happy? I'm doing everything that I can to make her happy and it's not working. What am I doing wrong? Most common way a guy comes in who's trying to work on himself. Women go, why isn't he doing what he needs to be doing for me? Blaming.
Yeah.
And it comes into like criticizing, negativity, nagging, ridicule, judgment. And I'm like, which kind of chaos are you? He's trying to get better for you and the family and the pack, and you're just tearing him down for his efforts not being the way that you want when you don't even know yourself. This authenticity, you don't even challenge yourself. You gaslight your introspection and then project your insecurities on another person who just want to take you out on a damn date and you don't like chicken wings at 7:30. It's like that's you. And I think that you said it very well when you said it was really just projecting their problems. They're projecting like them being the problem when they go like you got a stain on your shirt and they go like, "Oh, uh, you're embarrassing me. I feel embarrassed because of you." You're projecting that you're not authentically able to challenge yourself to be okay enough to cut the tie instead of put someone down for their own misfortune. There's no empathy and there's no understanding, and they don't have enough self understanding to put themselves in another person's shoes and go, damn, if I stained my shirt, how would I want to be spoken to? You can't do it without challenging everything. You have to go, why am I talking like this to another person? Why did I throw that stank on that necklace there?
Mm,
It's a cool necklace. I like that necklace. But if I said, why are you wearing that? Like it's just that little, just that attitude
mhm.
changes the whole way that it feels.
Yeah.
Why do I talk like that? Why do I project that? What am I doing here to make it so I'm that type of person? Where did that come from? We have to start challenging ourselves. That's a
Mm,
tool that I would say, do you have the damn courage to even go, I'm seeking that terrifying word of the truth. I want to know the real
yeah.
truth and not call it something that makes me feel better. And I'm going to put it out there, Nicole, because you're in the personal development stage. I hope all your listeners hate me for it and they want to have a call with me because I'm happy to do it. I've worked with women and I've worked with men, and my ladies were very surprised by this answer. Who do you think grows faster, gets through the stuff and just gets it faster, the men or the women?
Well, women physically grow faster and we get smarter faster.
Oh, I wish we were talking about like those early teen years. But I'm talking about that personal development, know thyself. How quickly
Mm.
can we work towards authenticity and really being okay with who we are? Who's faster, men or women?
Well, I would say men. And I think a lot of this even just comes down to like biology in the sense of women, we need to fit in on a much deeper, more survival level than a man. Right? Like if you are the man and you are able to be that alpha, you can be different and fully yourself and causing confrontation and all of these things and be safe and be accepted in your community. But as a right, inclusiveness and belonging in the community is our whole survival pre-modern society, right?
It's a good answer and not incorrect, which is ironic because that same mentality, when challenged, doesn't completely hold up on either side.
Hmm.
Here's what I've noticed. You know what makes alphas best? Being in a pack of alphas.
Okay, elaborate.
The Warriors Way mindset. We have a men's group and we have a lot of men. And what we do is we notice that we train these guys to become men, becoming warriors. But to do that, Hanging out with other leaders helps you to become a better leader, which means
Mm.
all of the alphas will converge. We do what's called the black box thinking, which is it's a book that's out there for talking about how an airplane, when it's going to crash, they get the information from the black box. Or if there's a problem, they get the black box information. But airports take that information and give it to all the airports to go watch out for this problem so your planes don't have it too. So that one problem now becomes known to all and everyone grows from one mistake.
Mm.
Well, when you converge alphas, we all have our own packs. If your husband is hanging with our guys, you're part of his pack. And it could be his mom, and it could be friends, and it could be whatever. He's his alpha in his pack. All of my guys have their packs. It could be their work, it could be their friends, it could be their family, it could be their kids. We all have our own pack, could be business, could be whatever. We're all leaders in some way, shape, or form. And to become a stronger leader, one person's mistake now black box information to all alphas, everyone levels up. So now all of the alphas teaming up together to create healthy alphas. Now, unhealthy alphas will all be like, I'm the loudest, I'm the meanest, I'm the biggest. These are not alphas. These are betas dressed as alphas. And I'll challenge all of you guys who are out there in take mentality, conquer mentality, get mentality, that you're an
Mm.
alpha, because alphas build. Alphas support, alphas create, alphas protect and provide and preside, alphas lead. The pack wants to follow, not has to follow. And that's the difference between these alphas. So when these guys get together, I've noticed that the strongest empathy, support, understanding, openness, vulnerability, strength comes from the alphas converging with alphas.
Yeah.
I've seen more growth in men in every category, including spirit and heart, not just mind and body. Which, don't get me wrong, our mind body side is strong. We've got doctorates and we've got MMA fighters and world class strongmen who teach people fitness. Like, our stuff for the Warriors Way is badass. These are all badasses. And when we collaborate and team up, we're way stronger together. And then we break and go and run our packs.
So, and that right there, I think really demonstrates the difference in that, okay, yeah, men, they can be much stronger together, right? Like you are the result of the five people that you surround yourself most often. Being in these packs, you can support, uplift 100%. But then they then go and separate into their packs. And the fact of the matter is, if let's say they went into this alpha meeting and they didn't get along with any of the alphas. There was nothing positive that came from it except for fighting. As long as they were still the strongest alpha, they're going to come out alive and then they can go back to their pack and be just fine without having had that sense of belonging and having to fit in.
You're right. And if that happened, you'd be correct. In the years that we've been running the Warriors Way, that has never happened. Hundreds of guys. We've never had that like guy who comes in to try to just tear the show apart and be that guy, because they come in and they have to do guys. This is why guys work better with guys,
Mm.
is they challenge the leader for competency. They have to have that call with me and challenge me. Am I really actually the guy, or am I just a bullshit guru? Am I nonsense? Do I not really walk the walk? Can I not really do what I say? And I encourage these men to challenge, because in our creed, one of the rules is challenge everything. They have to challenge everything. So I want them to go, are you really that smart? Are you really
Mm.
that strong? Are you really that capable? Are you really that stoic? Are you really that confident? Please ask the questions. Challenge me. See if I'm bullshit or not. Look at me in the eye and see if I've really been there or not. And the guys have to come in. And after they talk to me, they go, all right, you really know your shit. Fair enough. Where are we going?
Mm.
They have to do that. Now, this is where it gets different. How do you like it when a woman comes in to challenge the shit out of you? Well, girls don't like getting exposed. They don't want you to open up my cannon right in front of everybody. They don't want you to go like, are you really this? Do you really do it? Why don't you just take this off? Why are you wearing that? Why are you doing this? They don't want to be torn apart in front of everybody. But when I bring my guys in, I say, please do. Test this out. Test it out. See if I'm being real or if I'm bullshit. See if I'm a fraud. See if what I am on camera right now is what I am off camera. Have the conversations. When my warriors, they know me. I don't change personas. I'm not a different dude off this call. If you call me after this, it's the same guy.
Mhm.
If we go and we have Thanksgiving dinner with all our families, it's the same guy there. It's the same same dude. I don't
Yeah.
have to change. Well, that's what I teach for authenticity for our guys is be what you are. Because what you are is damn good. What you are is good. Good
Right.
enough. No, you are the only one that's like that. That's awesome. This is another confidence thing. And this is where I'm going to go to the women's side in a second. The other
Mhm.
thing with our guys is because you have the approval of other alphas authentically, which is why we break down all of those belief systems that you have. The first 14 weeks is me training boot camp hard. Know
Mm.
thyself, know thy enemy, know how to battle. So in doubt, fear, insecurity, anxiety, depression, addiction, when those come up, you know how to fight it. And we fight it together. We fought addiction together with like 10 guys this
Mm.
morning. Like when that comes up, we battle as a team, as a unit. And then when you're strong, now take your strength and lead.
Mm.
Guys are stronger together. This is also something women should probably be concerned about because women are not doing that anymore. Women leaning into the polarization are losing camaraderie, and guys are gaining more camaraderie.
Mm.
This may work against women soon. And I don't mean that guys are going to be mean. It means that women are going to be phasing themselves out of being desirable to desirable men because they're not packing up anymore. They're not looking out for each other, not building each other up. Now it's comparison, ridicule, nagging, and negative chaos, not
Mm.
spontaneity and happiness and joy and warmth and love, compassion, nurture. It's not, those aren't happening, especially women to women. Ladies aren't building each other up like they used to. It's a fraud. I wish that it was, but there's very small groups that are even trying to do it. And you may be privy enough to be able to know the people who are, but it takes you 5 seconds on social media to go like, that's not happening. And even running my women's groups to my men's groups, my men latch on like, I got you, brother. I'll be there for you no matter what. But the women don't have that same camaraderie. They don't reach out to each other. They're
Mhm.
not leaning in on each other. They're not there for each other.
Hmm.
So it's a different point of view. And this is
Yeah.
where I would start looking at like the polarization. And this is by no means me trying to bash on women because women have not only burden of beauty, but burden of performance now. And it's a really tricky time for women to balance it out. You're in the middle of this ambitious thing where it's
Mm.
really tough to balance that out. It is not an easy task. So it's by no means saying women, you suck. I'm just saying the cost on the other end of this doesn't work in your favor. It seems like it's like, well, I've been working so hard on me taking care of me. Well, at the end of it, that's what's going to be happening.
Mm.
It's what you work so hard for. Careful what you wish for. At the end of it, it's just you taking care of you at the end. And I would challenge to see like what's the percentage of women that you know who are like 40 and up who thought they were going to go out there and be the beauty and have like, look at my money, look at my status, look at my power, look at what I've got. And like a guy equal or up is like, I can't wait to get that. They're struggling right now.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean, I'd be curious to see how this is going to evolve over the coming years because I am seeing women coming together much more and supporting each other, creating these herds. Like something that stands out to me when you were talking about that is like, let's say a woman is going into being STEM, like in the sciences and technology, in leadership. There's just not as many women there to um collaborating with, you know? So we've
For now.
had for now, exactly. So we've sort of had to go about this of the way of, well, if I want to be that leadership person, then I either need to do it on my own and harden up, or I need to do it in this way that allows me to fit in with the men in some type of way, like adopting that masculine, strict traits.
Now, how are ladies doing it? Does it seem balanced and stoic?
I wouldn't say that it's yet in a way that is balanced and stoic, but I don't think that that's
Are they
because
having to be a different or they're having to be a different personality when they're
So
at
that's the
work
thing. I
versus
do
not at
think that
work.
they end up needing to adopt more different selves, but I do think that it's less because they're operating out of this place of I don't want to be authentic and more of well, if you look at the standards that have been set for that level of success or like what a leader looks like, what an XYZ is, these are the standards that I
Mhm.
have to meet.
Right. So then is it authentic?
So then are we allowing women to be authentic in their leadership and
No.
power?
Are they choosing to be? Allowing and it's showing that there's some form of authority, somebody who says what you can and can't do. Well, are you choosing
Okay,
to
maybe not
comply?
allowing, supporting.
Okay.
Because
What does
I would
that mean?
argue
What's
that
the
there
difference?
is there is no full essence of choice in this way. Like let's say I was a lawyer
Mhm.
and I want to be a judge. If I come in full pink sparkles and flowing around and like maybe adding some like moans between words or like I don't know, like
Fair enough.
operating in feminine,
Fair enough.
I'm not going to be respected and get to the point that I want to be at.
So
Right?
is
So
the
it's
person that
it's
you
less of
have
a
to be,
choice.
but is the person that you think you need to be, which is a judge, which is a judgmental person, to be a judge,
Yeah.
what do you need to be then to be a judge? And I guess the better way to ask it is, what part of you do you need to sacrifice to have that position?
Hmm. Right.
That's really the question, is if you want to be that status, that power, that level, well, what of you do you have to sacrifice to be that? Because are you really truly being authentic, or do you have to be pretty fucking wretched?
Mm.
What version of chaos are you going to bring as the feminine energy?
Right. But then I think the challenge becomes here, you said that these men are being what they are, being who they are.
Hmm.
Um,
How many authentic, strong, confident, has their shit together guys is going to want that judge as their nurture and their love and their compassion?
I think that those would butt heads for sure.
Doesn't seem very inviting. This is where, like, if
Yeah.
you start watching, the guys are starting to recognize, in order for me to do well in this world, I'm going to have to do well within myself. And they're really adapting very quickly. Now, I think girls understand the idea, but are really struggling because, again, it's ladies hurting ladies right now. It's a very interesting time. The whole thing that went with the feminist idea, well, the original idea was very good. Let's get equal rights. Let's make it so it's a little more fair in the game here. I've not got no argument. There's no laws I think that like shouldn't apply to men and women. Like make it fair. Just make the laws the same.
Mhm.
Well, we did it. Like, are there any laws that women can't do that guys can do? Are there any laws like that doesn't count anymore?
Yeah.
We did it. We got it. We did
Mhm.
it. Success. But now it's gone into this, judgment thing. Now it's gone into the other way. And there's a lot of women who are not dumb. They're very intelligent women out there, very smart, who can see the writing on the wall on this one. And you can see the Sadia Khans and you can see the women who are stepping up for men's rights because they're seeing the direction that this is going is meant to try to degrade men from strength, confidence, security. They're trying to destroy men. And they're like, yeah, 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 that's cool, ladies. But I have a son. And if you
Mhm.
guys succeed, my son has a miserable existence. This is not a good planet we're going to create if you win. And
Mhm.
you're all alone. And if you do the even the psychology research is the old Calhoun experiment back in the early 70s, which is the Universe 25, when they did the mice experiment to go, what happens when you create utopia with no problems and just let everybody with no issues just do what they want? Eventually the population implodes and you start watching like pretty much what's happening now with the weakness of society with no actual real issue or conflict, falls apart. It destroys itself and it starts doing some of the things that you see. You see more androgyny, more separation from the nuclear family. There's going to be more self gratification. So you saw like the male rats that became the beautiful ones. Those are the ones that just sit around and groom themselves all day and they're so self-obsessed. You see the women isolate more and become far less needing of a man because they just isolate and they stay up in their own little towers and just not interact anymore. And the families will start falling apart completely.
Yeah.
And we're watching that starting to happen now. We're destroying ourselves because, well, it's not really any problems except for the chaos that we create. And since there's not really an issue, now your feelings needing to be validated is like the hardest problem you have. It's not fighting for food. It's not fighting for safety. It's not fighting for freedom. It's fighting for feelings.
Mm.
Well, hold on a second now. When we're fighting for feelings, that starts making it so that the loudest, most judgmental, cruelest, meanest, well, that's the person who gets to be in charge. Blame, shame, judgment. I'm offended. That's who gets to be in charge. When we have a system like that, it's built on weakness, not morals and principles. It's based on opinions. Well, now we're in a fail system. We're doing that now when a guy who's strong and confident is called toxic. When a man who leads with fairness is called a dictator. These judgments, they're
Mhm.
nonsense. But who's going to affect? Ladies will be alone. Guys will be torn down for a little bit, but there will be little packs, little sections where women actually try and do it right and men try and do it right. And at the end of it, it's the only chance that they're going to be for humanity is these small groups that can see the writing on the wall ahead of time, started teaming up to go, can we not fuck each other up for a little bit?
Mm.
But which type of chaos are we going to bring here? Yeah, I go hard. I'm going
Yeah.
a little hard, Nicole.
Well, you just opened up like a whole other can of worms in the
Let's
sense
go.
of like this feminist movement, right? Is and the way that our world is moving, it's creating a lot more division and separation, not just from ourselves, but also from each other, so that we are becoming content to live up in our tower, just communicating and watching things on a little box in front of us and being happy. And, they say you will have nothing and you will be happy about it. So this
Hmm.
is
Well, love is getting
creating that
really
and
interesting. If you watch
paving the way
the
for that.
To Be Better podcast, I went pretty hard on
Mm,
the OnlyFans world. I went pretty hard on that. And that's a
mm,
really interesting thing. But there's also the other side. Remember, I'm plugged in with guys. Now it's not common yet, but it actually like it is a good argument to have. Guys are starting to find like the porn aspect, like the pornography and the opportunities there. Well, what's the comparison to like, women bring this to the table versus that aspect of it? And if you get into just the physical aspect, I know of, I don't know, but I know of guys who have like I know a buddy who does this thing where it's to the point where if this is early stages for this shit, there's guys who will use the VR headset and the sensation suit, like a bodysuit that does like the sensation thing to it. And then they'll have like some sort of like I don't know, silicone apparatus, like it's shaped like a butt and a vagina and all that stuff. It's like there's like a
mhm.
whole system here. And
Yeah.
they can have the VR headset and it can look like you're really doing whatever it looks like in your VR and have whatever flavor you want. It can be any race, anything. You can do any shape, any size, anything you desire. You can change it up every day if you want to.
Mhm.
You do whatever you want. And then afterwards, just go on with your day with no drama. Now, this is early phases. This is before we even start looking into like the sci-fi version of like the robot sex bots and stuff. Before we even go into like a woman who really can use a chat GPT system and your robot woman really does want to hear and listen implicitly to everything that you like, desire, care about, your favorite food, your favorite cookies, your favorite holiday, your birthday. They remember everything and they have a full systems and analysis of like I know your exact personality type and I can talk to you in a way that makes you feel the most like appreciated and loved and heard and all of those things. And you start adding in that sexual component. The guys are like, no drama, pure like appreciation and feels good. Like we may be creating a whole new monster where you ladies actually have to compete again. I'm not saying that sounds great. I'm just saying like, wait a second, that might be a thing because there's already guys leaning that direction because of the type of energy ladies are bringing as like a majority.
Mm,
Of course, we're plugged into the smaller circles where you're like, my ladies don't do that stuff. It's like, well, I don't know if you like remember when I talked about like the fitness world when my buddy said, you know, that they looked it up and like less than 10% of guys can bench 225. And I was like, that's nonsense. Almost all of my guys bench over 225. And they're like, who do you hang out with the most? And I'm like, well, workout guys. Well, that's the 10%, dude. That's your circle. Like you hang out in that group. That's why your friends do that. And that's why you do that. Well, it's the same thing. If you're in the personal development sphere of women who are trying to do better and can see the writing on the wall and have done the research, it's going to seem like I'm speaking about a foreign planet when I'm like, well, you're in the 3 percentile, though. So the
right.
97% didn't stop existing because you're in the 3%.
Right. Yeah. No, it is true. And I mean, like when I think about these dolls or whatever, it's less to me like, oh, how is a woman supposed to compete? But what comes to mind for me is just this increase in separation that they're creating, like completely destroying the family system, this unit that would have power innately just in and of itself. Now, if we have everybody just sporadic and you're a guy, you got your VR lady, well, what happens if they shut off the internet now and you can't access your woman?
That's a real problem. It'll be a real issue. It's not crazy. But also I think that as soon as the internet goes down, you think that there's gonna be a lot of issues. As soon as people will all be falling apart. What are you gonna do without your iPhone? Like everybody
Yeah.
starts falling apart at that point.
Okay. Not even shut down, but controlled,
Mm,
right? Like it already is being controlled, obviously, but
correct.
to an even greater extent, right? Like we're just making ourselves slaves to the system more
Hmm.
and more. Um, so I think there becomes just this bigger issue that arises out of this, division that's happening of the family system in women. I mean, even on a basic level, if you look at not too long after the feminist movement started, they were manipulating using feminism in marketing. Oh,
Correct.
well, if you want to be a, strong woman who stands out from the crowd and is great at work and all these things, you should be smoking cigarettes. Because
The
that's what
pan
all
the
the
Yep.
badass rebellious women do. And this is how we like increased women smoking.
Hmm. Well, the
Right.
pandering aspect of it too is pretty frustrating. It gets frustrating, especially when they manipulate minorities and stuff like that to be like every single billboard and every show is now just minorities. And you go
Mm,
like, I'm all for diversity, but there's a point where it's like only minority. Like I'm not saying that it has to be the other way, but I'm pretty sure that if we start going racist the other way, it's still racism. Just saying, it's
mm,
still the same. Like we need to have a balance, or even in any aspect. You can watch the episodes I did with Dr. Reese Sibatani, who's transgender, and going like, I think we've gone a little bit far. One of my good friends, I just had a really cool session with. Also falls into they're not transgender, but they do know she's a female born in the wrong body. She feels like a male in a female's body and always has her whole life. Struggles with it and is actually highly against like the hyper acceptance because it was
mm,
so far the other way when they were growing up. They're
mm,
like, "Oh, now it's good." It almost disgusts them with the
mm,
pandering.
hmm.
Like, and so it's really interesting to watch how like these stuff are going. It's one thing to say balance and acceptance is another thing to go and perpetuate in extremes.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
it's
where the
almost
trouble
like,
is.
yeah, and it's almost like they're taking this idea of, well, it's freedom. You get to be who you are, be a woman and thing, anything, but then using that for control again. So it's just
Correct.
a facade of freedom.
This is why they're attacking women in such a way, though, because the
Mm,
acceptance part that comes from outside and the validation affects women way more than men. But
yeah.
it's affecting women in a way that we're not getting approval from women anymore. And it's making guys, and I'm not a proponent fully of red pill stuff or MGTOW and the stuff where men going their own way and screw women and we don't need them. Like, I'm not that direction, but
Mm,
they are making more valid points than they should be. Ladies, like
mm,
this is an opportunity to step up. Like, don't be the negative chaos. Be the spontaneous, cool, joyous, building, nurturing, go with the flow chaos.
mm,
Like even still, that flow is chaos. It's not control. I'm in flow. I'm just wherever it goes. I'm in flow. A river. Is it organized? It looks organized, but it's not in order. It's all constantly fluidly moving in all directions. It's pure
Mhm.
chaos, but it's beauty. And this is where I'm saying,
Yeah.
ladies, what kind of chaos are you? This not to say guys don't have a role. Guys are
Mhm.
supposed to be the certainty, the reassurance, the safety, security, strength. But if that's shamed, again, the guy who does the right thing, who's nagged, complained, bitched, and like torn down, stops doing those things. And how many like negative women have made good guys no longer good guys?
Yeah. No, and I'm with you on like the nagging, complaining thing. It just brings negativity and it's really just you being at odds with whatever relationship it is that you're in. But I would add here like okay, you can say, well, women you get to choose what type of chaos you want to become. And do you want to be this joyous, playful, like fun, flowy chaos that we think about? Well, what about the darkness of chaos and sadness in these times of extreme anxiety? Like those all have a positive purpose
They
as
can
well.
they can with training.
Okay.
Untrained, any superpower becomes a burden. Remember, this is my opinion on anxiety. We talked about this before. Is that you're
Mhm.
not fucked up. You're brilliant. You're not broken. You're brilliant. You just didn't train. I have since we've talked. I have had so many people who no longer need their medication. I didn't say I take them off. I said the core root of the issue that they had the anxiety, they have control and they've practiced and trained. And now they're like, I no longer have those panic attacks and I no longer get overwhelmed like that. And I no longer do that. I don't need the medication anymore because I don't do that. Talk to my doctor. I told them, and they're like, okay, well, let's try and take it off and do this. I didn't tell them. I just said, well, let's get rid of the core reason why you have that system and train you to be more clairvoyant than panicking. You have a
Yeah.
superpower of looking into the future. Well, why
Mhm.
has it got to be terrifying? It's just prepared or not prepared. And we've
Yeah.
gone into those systems of, remember we did like do you have the tools for the circumstances when they arise, creativity, problem solving, resourcefulness, support system, outlets, faith, and more experience than you have, considering the fact you have 100% survival rate on everything you've ever been through.
Mhm.
Well, with even just those systems, shouldn't you be more curious and excited versus anxious and freaking out? I've got all the
Yeah.
tools it takes to handle whatever comes up, and nothing's taken me out of the game yet. So what's the odds of a rejection or something not working out being the hardest thing you've ever had to overcome, considering you have more experience now than the hard stuff you had to deal with when you were younger? Bring it
Yeah.
on.
No, it's very true. And I love your opinion on anxiety, this outlook from it being a gift. I wholeheartedly believe that each one of us has gifts behind our anxiety. I mean, this ability to see in the future, like you said, also just increased intuition. Like we have an ability to feel things, feel more than most people in the now. Um,
It's just another piece of uniqueness. That's you.
yeah, I
Oh,
have
you
a
hit something.
question
What
here,
did
but
you
I'm losing
find?
it.
Oh, no, sorry. I'll shut up.
I had an idea, but my brain was like, "No, not right now." Um,
You'll get it. It happens all the time to me. I did it twice already. I just had to keep rolling with it myself.
yeah. So, like, amidst okay, anxiety as this gift, and we were talking about how, okay, how can this feminine chaos, even if it's quote unquote negative chaos, like diving into the darkness, actually add richness into life? Um, oh man. Oh, there's something there about this anxiety piece where it's like,
I
I don't
don't
know,
want to
it'll come back
corrupt
to
it.
me.
Yeah, as soon as it hits you, let the lightning go. Interrupt me, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, it is one of those things though that if you change the belief system around it to be a little more authentic and truthful, you're not
Mm.
fucked up. You just have something you don't know yet. And if you look back at any past experience and go like, yeah, that was terrifying in the moment, but now I know how it goes, and so it doesn't give me anxiety anymore.
Okay, so I've got it back. So as you're talking through these ideas of, okay, well, do I have the resourcefulness? Have I handled this before? All of these questions. These all make sense, but they all attack the logical mind. Whereas in my experience as someone who has had a lot of high anxiety, a lot of the time it comes from a place of complete unawareness, of no logic, of, yeah, I can check off all those things. And I'm still sweating, or I'm still shaky, or I still feel this tension in my body.
Mhm.
So for me, like a large part of my journey has been twofold. One, understanding this is a gift. How can I train it on this more logical level? But then two, how can I get into my body to make terms with this battle I'm facing internally as a feeling? So
Well,
how do you
let's go. This is where the power of words is part of where we get caught up. Feelings are
oh,
just the words that we use to explain emotions, right? Like an emotion comes before a thought. Like you feel it, and then we try to explain it with our very limited language what that emotion is. Like,
like
and
the
so
emotion
that's
is the label for the feeling?
the feeling is the label we use for emotions. And so you'll have an emotion that comes up that's not like how much emotion do you have? Like we can't measure it. It's just our bodies inside are bigger than the outside gives us credit for. You have more thoughts, emotions, and feelings is way
Yeah.
bigger than like how big the space we take up is. So
Yeah, because I often see it more like the emotion is the label for the feeling, because let's say I'm feeling like my hands are getting sweaty, I'm getting
that's
shaky, my
but
heart's
but
racing,
those aren't
I'm
feelings.
anxious.
Sweaty hands is not a feeling.
What would you call that?
That's just an observation. I have
Just a
sweaty
sensation?
hands. My hands are sweaty. That's an observation. Now I am scared is a feeling. I am upset. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. What do they got? They got
So
the
then what's the emotion then?
so the emotions I feel are the part underneath it. So like when you get into like there's here's a tool that they had. They had this like feeling wheel or whatever it is.
Okay.
And so you get into
I've seen those.
the core ones are like your anger, disgust, fear, surprise, sadness, peace, trust, you know, the parts of us love, the parts that are like at the very core pieces. But then it goes into all of these other things that we would use as descriptors of those things. Like so let's say you're afraid, it'd be like apprehensive, concerned, worried, helpless, susceptible, frightened, terrified. Like we use all these descriptive words to try to say I'm afraid, you know what
Okay.
I mean? I'm insecure, anxious, vulnerable, scared.
So
You're
you're saying those are
afraid.
the feelings and then the core is the emotion. That's how you look at it.
That's the way I see it. And we had a huge debate in our group about it too. Like, what's the difference between emotions? I actually, Chris Terrell and I had a big talk on this too. We're like,
Hmm.
what's the difference? Like, how do we know?
Yeah.
And so we were also breaking it down because he also is a high level coach. And so he does a very good job of that. So I do see it that way where the emotions is it's hard to describe because there's so much of the emotion, but emotions come before logic. And this is the psychology of it.
Hmm.
Before I can think about it, there's a feeling that came. There's an emotion there. Now,
Yeah.
my logic will try to explain the emotion with feelings. I feel like this. I feel confused. I feel stressed. I feel humiliated. I feel amazed. I feel shocked. Like it could be whatever I describe that overwhelming tidal wave as.
Yeah. Like the story you're telling yourself about how you're feeling.
Correct. And so then the logic would come after. Now, if you're more emotional or you have more emotions without control of the emotions of it, I don't control my chaos. If you don't have control of this, well, then it will control you. And that's where you're like, this is where a challenge for you to me, and I actually do really truly want your opinion on this. For
Hmm.
guys, I have to train their logic. I have to train their practical, tactical abilities, or I have to train the applications. I have to train.
Hmm.
Can you do the skill? I know the knowledge, but can you do the ability? Can you do it?
Hmm.
Guys, we go logical first because we suppress these emotions. Well, women are allowed to have the emotions and not suppressed as much. So
Yeah.
them being the chaos versus the order, well, the emotions are going to go higher. This is where if I'm training guys in logic and tactics, wouldn't it make sense for women to train in chaos?
Hmm. Okay. So how would you expand on this idea of training in chaos?
I actually would ask you, how would you
Oh,
expand on it as the women's side? Because you're in the anxious and ambitious side.
yeah.
How would you say, well, instead of me trying to train my chaos with logic, what if I just accept my chaos and
Mm.
train my chaos as chaos?
Yeah, so I think it comes down to actually allowing yourself to experience that chaos.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, like, I mean, let's be real, most of psychology, most of personal development world has been created by and for men. And so it's all valid and it does work, but I think it has this key missing piece of actually getting into the experience of that chaos. So in my world, how this looked for me was okay, this idea of logic. Like I tried logicking my way through all of this stuff and I would do all of the top down approaches of like, I'm waking up early. I'm part of the 5 a.m. club. I'm going to fill myself with all the reading and journaling. I'm going to do my mantras. I'm going to do mirror work, like whatever it may be. But there would still be a feeling that would arise in my body of overwhelm, of chaos, of just buzzing sensations, right? And I wasn't able to logic myself out of that no matter how hard I tried. I remember counselors would ask me, well, why do you feel anxious? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel it. And so the only way that I was able to actually go in and heal that and take control of the feelings is to dive for headfirst basically into the chaos and feel it. Allow yourself to feel it because it was through the body that I came to these answers that the logical brain didn't really have. Like a lot of it is really in our body, in our nervous system, in our heart, in our womb as women.
Hmm. I love it. I'm kind of leaning your direction on this one. Whenever I worked with women, the logic only goes so far. And it's almost like the guys can suppress the emotion and justify with logic. Well, women will suppress the logic and justify with emotion. Well,
Yeah.
maybe that's where the thing is like tackling fear itself is understanding the logic of it is that it's not real. And so, well, then let's go into some stuff that's not real and like go into it. And like, let's go feel the feels of it. And it would make sense for me to go ahead and have an experience that never happened and come out with gratitude. That's still a feeling instead
Mm.
of just panic or terror. I
Mm.
feel like you can navigate with feelings versus feelings, just like we navigate with beliefs versus beliefs or logic versus logic. Can't we go feelings versus feelings, or is it just going off of the belief system that it's not possible or is possible? I would challenge some ladies to see if they really can or do this, and if you've done it and it's worked, it gives
So when you
validity to it.
say like challenge feeling with feeling, what comes to mind with for me is like this narrative of Mel Robbins comes to mind actually of like you can change your state, like only allow yourself to be in this for 5 seconds and then you count down from
It's
5
logic.
and boom, like
I
feel
challenge
the
that's logic. That's not
yeah.
feeling. That's still a program, that's still a routine, that's still control. It's not feeling versus feeling.
Right, but they'll sort of so to expand on that, I'm with you. The 5-second rule is
Logical.
logic. But then when we think about feeling, it's like, okay, we'll shift your state, right? Like let's say you're feeling really anxious or really depressed. Well, you can get out of that by embodying these feelings of gratitude or excitement. Or they'll say, like, notice that your shoulders are forward because you're sad. Like, put
I
them
would
back and now you're confident and
I would
happy.
challenge all of this is still a logic approach. Change your
S-
physical state is a
Okay.
logical sense of control, but when you're in a heightened state of fear, you're not thinking logically. And so this is where I'd go fear of. And like, let's just go further into it. Let's go farther
Mm,
into fear. I'm afraid of, let's just do a catastrophic thing, somebody dying or getting divorced or whatever. Pick it like that
mm,
would be a catastrophe, right? Well,
mhm.
if we go in without panic, without freaking out and go, let's go in, go in, go in, and then recognize like that wasn't real and it's not real. And this is like that I can be present in the feeling and also be present in the present, which is like I'm going to be emotionally connected to what is. This is like I'm in right now. I'm in it. I'm just going to be in it. I'm just in it. Okay.
Mm,
Now, if we can stay in it and recognize I'm in it, I'm in it. I'm going to feel the feels in this. I'm going to stay in this.
mhm.
Wouldn't it make sense that if you were worried about getting divorced and then you came out of that and you were present and like, I'm not divorced? Well, wouldn't a feeling of gratitude come over that the thing that you were afraid of never happened and you're actually in a moment of not divorced?
See, I would argue that now you're bringing logic back in, because then
Well, I
that's
mean,
just another story.
well, what
Like,
feeling do you
well, I'm
have
not
that the fear
divorced. Well,
wasn't
I
real?
still feel it in my body.
Okay, but it isn't happening, nor did it ever happen. And so, like, how do you feel that it
Mhm.
never happened?
So then the question of how do you feel that it never happened then again requires me to go back to my logical mind and think logically how I would feel because
But
it doesn't happen.
I want you to go in with your feelings though. How do you feel about it? How do you feel that it never happened? How do you feel that the fear that you were worried about never happened? How do you feel?
I suppose you would feel happy, but I see what you're trying to do, but I like have you tried this in with your clients to have them go through and feel that feeling and
I work with the guys, so the logic works really well with our guys. Now I got heart side
right.
guys and they can go through it, but we can apply tools fast. I
Mhm.
really would. I would let you watch. I'd let you watch what we do.
Mm.
Like, men apply very quickly. They go
Mhm.
like, I don't have that stubbornness in me to go like, I already have all the answers. The guys are like, listen, if you're saying it works, I'm just going to do it. We have high success rate. And
Mhm.
this is, obviously the like-minded guys who want to grow, guys who are willing to do the work. That's a different thing.
Right.
So when I say like, let's do what works and we
Mhm.
challenge it together, even if the answer doesn't come back exactly the same as another guy's, we'll find a way that does work exactly for that guy's fighting style.
Mhm.
So I'm still saying I want you to go through the feelings. Now go through the feelings of the reality and the truth, not just the feelings of the lie. And yes, I have done this. Go through the feelings of the truth, not just the feelings of the lie. You feel
Mhm.
unworthy of the life you have. You feel like what you have isn't good enough. You feel like you can't do this. You feel this way. You feel not good, not good, not good, not good. You feel all that. Now let's look at the reality of your life. You have a good husband. You have a good home. You have a good career. You have a good setup. You're good. You're good. Can you accept the reality of what is, or are you still worried about what isn't? Are you going to have the feelings just for the lies or the feelings for the truth also?
Yeah, so to me, that oftentimes hasn't worked in my personal experience, only because, again, I feel like it's a top down approach of, okay, well, look at the reality around you, right? Like you could say this to somebody who's having a panic attack, like, you're safe right now. Like, there is nothing happening. So, knowing in your gut that you're not being chased by a tiger or you're not dying, like, how does that feel? It still requires the brain to create that reality when, as you said before, we feel in our body first.
I have talked to people straight out of their panic attacks, mid panic attack.
Mhm,
I would argue that with training, it can be done because it's been done many times. I will watch people go like, oh God, it's coming on right now," and I'm like, "Stay present in the moment. Remember where we're at. Look around you at the moment. Stay with what you know." Like we can go in with
mhm,
training and understanding of yourself. You can go like, remember present to the present. Look around. Look around. Look around. I am safe. I am okay. Calm down. And I will watch people go, okay, even my female clients, female, yes, they too also are watched go like, oh my God, my job and my things and everything and my son and my kid, and oh my God. And they start, I'm like, hey, you're in it now. Remember this, you know this, stay in it, and we'll go through it together. And I'll go right through the feelings and go, remember where you're at, look at your things, and they'll calm themselves down. I also
mhm.
do this for physical things. I have asthma, like severe asthma to the point when I was a child, the doctor said, you will never be an athlete. And I'm like, fuck you, I'll show you. So like there's that thing that they said, you're never ever going to be able to do fitness or sports or any of that stuff. And I would push myself to asthma attack. And I learned through my cross country coach, because that's how fuck you I was. I'm like, I'll go do cross country then. Like I was like the hardest thing you could do. And I remember running with that coach. It was just him and I. We were out running and he would talk and talk and talk. And I realized as I was like starting to have my asthma attack and like the cold of the winter, as I started having like that, and I started to have that, he would keep
Mhm.
talking and keep talking. And then over time, I realized we'd run like 8 miles, or we finished out at 10 miles that day. And I was talking and breathing just fine, even in winter air. And it taught me how much of it really is mental versus I didn't need the crutch. And since I learned that it's a mental thing that you can, and I do this still, if I'm having an asthma attack, I can mentally bring myself down. I
Hmm.
don't need the inhaler. This is where I learned it is a trainable thing. And for those of you who do not believe it, you will make sure that that is true, whether it's stress, anxiety, asthma, fear, whatever it is. There's things like, I don't believe you. Well, then you are right. You'll make sure you're right. But the people who go, I believe it's beatable, well, then they train to beat it. And so when it comes up and you start having a panic attack with training, you look forward to like, oh, this is my time to practice. This
Hmm.
is my time to practice. And once you're trained to do so, when they get in the like, oh God, it's coming on. I can feel it coming on. I can feel it coming on. I'm like, good. Do your thing you know now. Okay. Stay in the moment. Be calm. Look at the moment. I'm okay. I am safe. Go through my things. I have all the things you need for this. I can take care of this. Now, does the logic approach work for the men? It does, because we're that way. But I will argue not all women are 100% emotion either. You guys are not dumb. You guys are smart. And so you can learn. And I've watched
Yeah.
my women who have the panic attacks more often than the guys, because I challenge all of my warriors very hard.
Mm.
When they hit that moment, we've also brought them all back. So
Yeah.
it's the belief. Do you believe you can? If you believe you can't, because there are people who think you can't do it, well, then you'll make sure it's right. But if you believe you can, well, we've done it many times. So you
Hmm.
can. So that's where I would, that's the only part where like I've seen it done. I'm not saying it is it everybody always 100%. If you don't believe it, then no.
Yeah, right. Like the placebo effect's strong. You got to believe it. And I'm with you. Like I myself have experienced firsthand this ability to then be able to logic my way out of these feelings of panic or out of the feelings of anxiety in the moment if it hasn't, reached up to a panic attack. But what comes to mind for me there is, well, even though you can stop it with the logic, is it still keeping coming back up? Because like where does it start from?
I
You
think
know?
it always tries. The same thing with doubt, same thing with fear, same thing with sadness, same thing with anger. They don't go away. Things don't
Mhm.
get easier. You just get stronger. You just learn that you can handle these things more. Again, it comes to the same thing with the truth. What do you think? Let's just go in. Let's just go in.
Mhm.
Let's say, what's the issue with the truth? Why can't people handle the truth? Why is it so much? Why is the information too hard to deal with? Why do people get triggered? Why do we get angry, sad, freak out, retreat, run away, fawn? Why do we get, what is that? What's happening? Why can't people handle the truth and just go, oh, yeah, all right, what's missing? If I want
Mm.
radical truth, people can't do radical truth. Radical
Mhm.
truth. People can't handle radical truth. Why not? What do you need?
I think they need control
Well, we're
or a
using that's
feeling of control.
well, that's our triggers. Triggers are for control. Fight, flight, freeze, and fawn is all control systems. I don't
Mhm.
have control, so I'm going to do some system to try to get control.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we do. So that's usually that I don't have control system. What do we need to make it so that system doesn't need to be triggered? I can just hear the truth and not get triggered into control systems.
Mm.
Do you know what I would need? Let's
No.
go. We had to work on this, and this is where a lot of the training for my first training sessions are. Like for the first like boot camp version gets into acceptance. It is the path to enlightenment is to be able to be accepting mind, heart, body, soul. Can you accept what is? Even I just did that episode with Maria Callas where I let her just spirit drill you. Like you should watch that one because I let her like just open me up, just tear me up right
I did
live.
listen to that one
You
actually, I
listen? That
think.
that one was hard.
Was that the one where she was like going into your emotions? Like you did
Yeah,
a
where
little
she
session
pulled the
with her?
spear out. We did you
Yeah.
Yeah. That listen, most people won't let someone do that live.
No, I was proud of you. I was loving it.
Yeah, that's hardcore stuff. So like to be
Mhm.
able to open that stuff up requires a radical acceptance.
Mm.
Means I have to be able to go through denial, bargaining, anger, sadness to get to acceptance, but I have to be able to do that with mind, heart, body, soul. And you saw even on that one, I was going spirit and heart, which is not my strong sides. Tactical, action, those are my strong sides. But to
Mhm.
go into spirit and heart and see the effect, and just so you know, the result of that, when she did that spear thing, I
Mm.
felt very weird emotionally and spiritually for a few days, just like every time I talk to Maria, it's like 3 days of my emotions and spirit all over the place. I no longer have that pain here. It was there for weeks before that conversation. After that day, I don't feel that like that pain all the way through. I couldn't sleep on many nights.
Yeah.
How bananas is that?
Yeah, and so with her though, into the feeling. You took that heart approach. Like I
Correct.
remember you were even trying to come up with like, "Oh, well, I'm feeling this way because," and then the logic came up and she's like, "No, that's
Correct.
not what we're here for." So this is where I come down to like, well, we have to work with that emotional body, our spiritual body, because that's where a lot of this is coming from. I mean, we can accept our experience all we want. You can say like, oh, you'll get stronger, and you will. You probably will get better at coming out of panic attacks and things like that. But I remember being told, like, you're going to experience anxiety your whole life, but it's going to get a lot easier. You're going to get a lot better
But
at
even
handling it.
but even the belief system that like you're going to experience this your whole life. The way
Hmm.
that it's brought up means your situation is hopeless, but it'll be not as bad later. Well, that belief system of you're stuck and you can't help somebody who really believes it can't be beaten. This is the
Hmm.
same for PTSD, for bipolar disorder, for depression. People who are told you will never beat this, it's unbeatable. Even addiction, it doesn't matter. If you'll always be that. If you have that belief system, you will make sure it is true. You will always be right. If you believe it's beatable or you believe it's not, you will always be right. And so the people who have that warrior spirit to say, I will fight because I believe it's beatable, they beat it. But the people who do not believe it can be done will make sure it is never done. They cannot be wrong.
Hmm.
You cannot break your identity. And if you believe you are anxiety, if you believe you are depression, if you believe you are PTSD, if you believe you are, you always will be. But I have soldiers you can talk to who have beaten addiction, who have beaten PTSD, who have beaten depression, who have beaten suicide. I can introduce like my warriors. I go in with them on this and we beat that. And it's
Hmm.
beatable because we
Yeah.
do it. And so I know it is. My belief system is unwavering. You will not get me to shake to say, can you beat PTSD? You can. Do you know how I know? I did it. I grew up in a home that made it so I couldn't sleep with my back to the door. I couldn't sleep with my back to the door until my mid 30s.
Wow.
Like, I know what the fight is. I know it.
Hmm.
And so, can it be beaten? I have beaten them, and my warriors have beaten them, and you have been beating yours. Is it possible? If you believe it is, then you're right. And if you believe it's not, then you're right.
Hmm.
So that's where
Yeah.
I stand on it. I believe it is possible. I believe you are strong enough. I believe you have everything that it takes to beat it. I believe in you. But do you? Because whatever you say is your answer is right.
Hmm. No, and I agree that belief is key. If you believe that you're never going to get better, then you never will. If you believe you're going to just get worse, you will. You'll always suffer. But this idea of having to battle it, I would just say that we don't always have to outpower it. We don't always have to get stronger than it, but instead we need to experience it and come to a deeper understanding of why that thing is actually coming up so that the whole battle comes to an end.
Which works perfectly. The core of all of them. Doubt is
Yeah.
declining the offer. Fear, it's not real in the first place. It's a shadow.
Mhm.
Fear doesn't get me anymore because I
Mm.
challenge it right away. I don't have to be aggressive and violent and angry. I just say, are you real? Prove to me that you're real. And if it's not real, you can't prove it. I had somebody who showed me a manifestation. They were going in on it, and they were doing a version of psychedelic therapy, which I'll get into on a different day, which is pretty amazing, by the way. So when I was
Mm,
going through this, they saw an image of a dragon in front of them, an actual dragon. And I said, "What color is the dragon?" I said, "This dragon is like a brown. It's like a rust color. It's like face to face with me." I said, "It's a fear dragon. Touch it." They're like, "I don't want to touch the dragon." I was like, "Touch it. Your hand will go right through that one. It's a mirage. Those ones aren't real.
mm.
I know what these look like. I have fought these things before. That one's bullshit. Touch it." And they realized that there was no dragon. It was just fear. I was like, you can walk right through those ones. In fact, I've seen people who are highly focused on their goals and dreams and vision. And when you're focused on something, fear, doubt, distractions, excuses don't get you the same way. You walk right through them. The
Mm.
distractions don't get you. You walk right through them. And so someone will be like, there's a dragon there. And you're like, I didn't even see it. Like, you walked right through
Yeah.
it. Well, I was looking at my goal. I was on my purpose. I was on my dream. I didn't
Yeah.
notice the thing to be afraid of. The obstacle didn't get me because I didn't notice it.
Yeah.
I was
And
like,
it's
that
like
one's
in
not
fighting,
real.
you're giving it life. Like in fighting it, you are making it real.
But I don't have to fight them anymore because I can say, are you real? And is there something here to fight? Most of the time with fear, the thing isn't actually there. So now if something is scary, and fear and danger is different, it's not the same. If
Mhm.
you're going to be in a car accident because people are driving recklessly, that's danger. That actually, you should be worried. You can be actually hurt here. But if you're scared because of taxes, well, there's nobody here right now. Like, hold on a second. We'll figure this out just like everything else you've ever figured out.
Mhm.
So then I would go, well, hold on a second. We'll sort this one. This one's not happening. It's just a thing that could happen. It's not happening though. And having that training for presence in the presence and challenging its authenticity is real. Means that like fear doesn't get to amp up because it's not there. Same thing with doubt. Remember when I challenge doubt, doubt offers nothing and takes everything. So if someone says you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not skinny enough, you're not fat enough, you're not whatever enough, well, what are you offering me? And I just challenge right away. Well, what's the offer on the table? What are you offering me? Sounds like nothing. And when you're offering nothing, I just humbly decline your offer. Doubt tries every day. Doubt tries with us. You guys aren't going to make any impact. You guys podcast for too long. No one's going to listen to the whole thing. Why would anybody do anything nobody cares about what you two have to say? And I'm like, that sounds cool. What are you offering for us? Is there better topics? Is there a new opinion? Are you going to promote for us? Are you going to be our social media manager? Like, what's the idea? What are you offering? Like, no, I just said you guys can't do it. I'm like, so you're not
Mm.
offering anything? Well, I humbly decline because the potential that Nicole and I have together is pretty off the fucking charts. So we're going to go with that over the nothing. So I just decline your offer.
Yeah.
They're all the same. They're all the same. Anxiety is just fear amplified. And the more things I can cross off as not real or not happening, then it's less tabs open to have anxiety. But your superpower running rampant will make it so there's too many tabs open so you can't process all of it at once. It's too much. It's too many things. But with training, close down some tabs. Let's look at the three most likely and get prepared.
Mhm.
Well, now you have control of your superpower. You just went into the future just as many times. It's just now you're ready instead of terrified. Well, that's amazing. You're literally a superhero now.
Mhm.
That's the way I look at it. And so people can disagree, but that's the belief system that keeps working for warrior after warrior is that you're not broken, you're brilliant. You just haven't been
Mhm.
trained yet.
Mm. Yeah, you're not broken, you're brilliant. You just haven't been trained yet. That is the key.
It
Yeah.
keeps working. It keeps
Mhm.
working. And that's the part where I'm like, I'll take the challenge. I'll introduce. It keeps working for people.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying your way isn't working because it is working. I'm just saying this is my way and it works. And it goes against traditional psychology. They're teaching medication,
Yeah.
not removing the core.
Yeah. It's true.
I don't need them to be a repeat client every week. I want you to have the tools and utilities to go and lead your pack and be productive and have authenticity and actually love yourself, because
Mm.
then you can accept the love of another person too, which is ultimately what we all want. Otherwise, we'll end up with robots.
We're headed down that road pretty quickly. Oh my goodness.
We have work to do. We have no one thing we don't have to worry about is job security this day and age.
Yeah. So I'm curious, Rick, have you ever had anybody come to you where then you start to say, okay, like let's say it was anxiety as this issue because anxious and ambitious.
Of course.
Well, what are you anxious about? What if they were anxious about nothing and there was no logical reason? They know uncertain, no shadow of a doubt that I am safe, I am secure, I am strong, and I still have this feeling.
Yeah, there's something underneath all of it because it's not a presence thing anymore. There's an underlying issue. Usually, if you have to be real with it, most of where everything falls under is grief and growth. Most things. If you really break
Mm,
everything down, it's going to either fall under are you grieving or are you growing? That's usually the two categories that, like, at the very, very core. Now, each one then expands into how and all the different pieces of it. And it gets very, very advanced as you go further away. But at the bottom of it, usually most people are stuck in some sort of loss, some sort of like part of them that was taken or hurt or damaged or wounded. Something happened, and most of it for them is going to be routed in denial, which makes it so the other systems they live in, which is maybe anger or depression, or even most commonly that you don't even know is bargaining, the people pleasing thing, the rose
mhm,
colored glasses. Bargaining is really clever. Like, we get caught in some sort of system that's usually caught in our loss and grieving system, and we don't have the training to get to acceptance in each one of those pieces. Well, when you're stacked up like this, your feelings are going to be off the charts, which makes it so that you start believing that your feelings all over the place is who you are. But you never
mm.
really got into, like, well, do you know how to go through the grief of each of these things that are all stacked? Because it sounds like it's a hydra, if you will, a multiple headed monster that's actually really just a bunch of individual issues you call one thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and start cauterizing some of these heads, and then you're not going to have so many of these anymore, and then your belief system now can be cleared up, and we have to start renovating all of the negative beliefs that aren't true to find your authenticity. And then once you're really actually living as you, those feelings that are just there start to change because you're not holding on to a negative belief system or a limiting belief system.
Mhm. So then I guess my question for you is, well, using this whole process, you are doing this with your warriors, obviously with yourself too. You're clearly somebody who walks the walk of what you teach to your people. But then when Maria came on and you guys did that exercise together, it was this idea of like, I have these pains, I have these sensations, and I don't know why from a logical level. So she
Mhm.
had you go down and
Spirit and
through it.
heart side. Yeah, because all of us guys are repressed. Our heart side is highly repressed. And so there's also women who have a lot of heart
Yeah.
repression also, because people are mean. Like, not just women, people are fucking mean. And so,
Hmm.
like, those are in there. But if we're not training for a heart, mind, body, soul, because I was doing heart training live, that's my weakest side. That's my weakest side. It's the most damaged part is my heart. And even when I talk to the guys, I'm like, would you rather a fist fight or a broken heart? They're like, give me the fist fight.
Hmm.
I'd rather have broken nose than broken heart. Let's go. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that's where most people will go, especially guy side. I wish it was a physical conflict. It's just not. So our hardest hits are going to be here. So I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm going to go in my weakest area. It's hard. Yeah. So that's a struggle. I wanted to publicly put out my toughest fights. Yeah. To go into that, it's not easy. And the
Yeah.
reason that I did that also is because if I tell someone to open their heart, if I tell you, let's be honest and truthful with what you got down in there, if I say, let's go into the parts where you don't want to go, let's go to the part that scares the shit out of you. Let's go in there and do it. I'll show you I do it too.
Mhm.
I never ask a warrior to do something I don't do myself.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, is it hard? Yeah, it's hard. It's weird. It's difficult. It's hard to find on your own. This is why, like, you need somebody who could do that. You need
Yeah.
somebody who can help guide you through. You need someone who's going to challenge you, not just validate you. If you have a therapist or a counselor who goes like, well, thank you for sharing. You're so brave. You're going to be there for
Mm.
15 fucking years with no growth. You're going to be spinning in circles and calling it growth.
Yeah.
No, you need someone to challenge you. Like Maria challenged me, I challenge everybody. I challenge myself. But
Hmm.
that's where growth is. But you have to challenge your grief too. Is what happened? What did you lose? Can you go to acceptance in each of those things?
Right.
And
No,
then
and
you
it's
can
so
handle more
powerful.
truth. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's so powerful because even after doing all of the logic work, all of your, strengths, having that experience of going down and through the heart, through your spiritual body had such a massive impact. Like you mentioned that the pain went away, even though if you were to have thought about like, why am I feeling this pain? You'd have nothing that had come up.
Yeah.
Right? So that has been for me a huge part of my journey was understanding that like a lot of this anxiety I can't understand on a conscious level, but when I can go down and actually into the body, into the heart, there's so much wisdom there and that's how you can actually get to the root. Because we can think our way and spiral around in a million stories as to why this is the case, but then never actually discover that root.
Only if you don't answer the whys. People think rhetoricals are answered questions. Oh, why do I feel this way? Oh, so frustrating. Well, why do you feel that way? Answer the question. Oh, what's the point of all of this? Oh, so stupid. Well, what are you doing it for? What is the point of it? Like, what are you doing? Like, well, if you answer the question, you start getting to like, well, because I want to be approved of. Well, why do you need to be approved of by others? Because I need to fit in. I need to belong. It's a core need of my own. Okay, belong with who and belong where? And what kind of caliber of people do you want to feel approved of and belong with? And what do you respect the most? And what values are important to you so that way you can know you're with the right people whose validation matter? Well, we don't get into any of that. We just leave the question rhetorically unanswered and call it answered because it had some sass to it. What's the point? What is it?
Yeah. But then it's like, well, why were you feeling that pain in your chest?
So there's heartbreak and betrayal that I had that I was able to tactically work through. I could
Mm,
work out all day and get rid of those things. But there was a spirit heart side pain in there. And there was betrayal in my life that I hadn't gone through the feeling part to because I just opened my heart side up this year. And
mhm,
so like it's almost like here's another example of what I had to do. I actually once I opened up my heart side, which you remember each person's got their strong side. You may be heart and spirit, but have to work on logic and physical, like the body side. You know, some people are strong body but weak spirit. You know, like we have to find balance between all. I was closed off heart side, and so to learn how to feel, I actually had to re-grieve every funeral in my life. I went back through, and you don't have to go to every grave because people's spirits don't require you to go to a destination. That's for you. That's not for them. But I had to go through all of the funerals again ever since I was like 13 when I watched my grandfather die. Like I didn't know how to process that. I didn't have the emotional capacity to process that,
mhm,
and I closed my heart off before that moment. So I was watching people I love die, and I've been to many funerals and buried good friends and best friends. And I
mhm.
had to go through every loss all over again and go through my acceptance emotionally because I had it closed off. So I had to go through and re-grieve. And let me tell you, this time there was tears. There wasn't tears the first time, but this time there were tears because I had to feel through those feels. And then I had more closure. That pain in my
Yeah,
chest was me working through betrayal from people that I can logically justify. I can logically go like, hey, that's them doing their best, or hey, whatever, that they reveal their true colors. I see who they are now. Okay. I don't associate with people who do that. But the spiritual and emotional damage that was done, I couldn't get rid of. It's not my
yeah,
strong side. So I had to train harder. So I was grateful for Maria to go, I'm going to hard train you. Then we're going to go in and fight. And I said, that's the kind of warrior shit I'm looking for. Because if
yeah,
anybody ever tells you heart side is weak side, they don't fucking get it. Every side is strong side.
mhm, yeah. No, I'm glad that you made that experience so public, because I think that this is a really missing part of the dialogue in largely in the personal development mental health space, is this idea of actually getting into our spiritual or energetic body, into our heart, and releasing it from an emotional standpoint, because I've been there trying to logic my way through all of the things. And for me, it was really going in and discovering, like, what are these feelings and what is the root of them? And when I tried to do the why approach, it wasn't as effective for me because I genuinely did not know why, nor could I have known why I was feeling that way without doing that deeper dive of work.
Hmm.
So, like, for example, for me, some of my anxieties were actually coming up from inherited emotions, from things that hadn't even happened in my own lifetime. So then, when I was asked this question from therapists of why do you feel anxious? Why do you, in this scenario, have a panic attack? I'm like, I don't know. My body is just going. I have no stories telling me otherwise up here, like, no stories saying you're unsafe or insecure or anything like that, in fear, but it was an emotional body that needed to be cleared out so that I could rehabilitate my body.
Hmm. It's not crazy. I didn't subscribe to that until the last few years when I really met powerful warriors from the spirit side. And
Mhm.
my logic side, I'm psychology. I go into philosophy, and I'm like, all right, show me the bullshit. Like, but then I
Yeah.
meet people like Daniel Jackson, Maria Callas, Kai Jordan. I meet people who are real deep spirit side, and I'm like blown
Mm.
away at the way that they can connect. They can connect from across the world. I'm
Mhm.
talking to a guy in Bali, and he's like, "I can feel you, man. I can. You're going through this and this." I'm like, "How the hell?" Well, you're right. Or
Mhm.
Daniel Jackson calling out some shit. There's no way he could have ever known. I've given no tells, no information, and just calling my shit out. That one's on our Patreon. We just created that because I got a couple episodes I've done that are, let's just say, too hot for TV.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you want some of the episodes that are like, holy fuck, like the one with Daniel Jackson, who's a spirit medium,
Mm.
like, I'm like, all right, here we go. We had Lotus Wilson on the show, but that day we did a meet and greet. And so we were just finishing our meeting to say, like, what are we gonna do on a podcast and stuff like this. Daniel Jackson comes in, starts doing this reading thing on her, and she's like, oh, okay. And at first I'm like, it seems like mentalist stuff. I'm a skeptic. So I'm gonna be like, nah,
Yeah.
my logic side says bullshit. And he
Yeah.
starts doing really clever and fun things. It seems like nonsense, 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 until he starts calling out shit he could never have known. No, I give nothing. I'm like, I grew up in this town and this is my moon sign. Like, I give none of that shit. I don't do any of that. Nope. I'm like, all right, yeah, sure. Tell me my spirit animal. Who's my guardian angel? Go the fuck ahead. And if you watch, and this is where I tell people watch, what he tells me puts me in tears.
Mm. Ooh, I want
What
to watch. That sounds awesome.
Listen, what he tells me, it caught me off guard. Where like now I had to challenge myself to go, like, maybe there's some validity to this madness. Because if I really listen to it with an open mind, open heart, maybe it's not totally crazy, but he does get into past lives. He does get into that stuff that may validate you're not actually fucking crazy.
Mhm.
But if you look at the way that society would treat symptoms today, that feeling that you had from a past life, that you had to break the curses of a life that wasn't even this one, that's part of your soul's purpose. For me to have to tear out a spiritual spear of betrayal from somebody that may not even have been in this life also, I don't know,
Mm.
and having to remove
Yeah.
these damage from the past, whether it's our current life now or from the life before. Oh shit, you just dropped some stuff.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. But
No.
either way, it's not that crazy. Maybe you're not that crazy, and maybe that's part of your
Mm.
soul's purpose. And I didn't understand that stuff. I didn't
Mm.
understand that. But there's something to it. But it's more
Mm.
comforting now. There's a couple episodes on there where even Reese Sabatani Blake, we did a recording. That's the transgender doctor.
Mm.
Whew, she goes hard. Let me just say, when she goes in, I'm like, I can't even post this. This is gonna get me canceled. I'm like, you're going hard as fuck. She's tearing everybody apart. I'm like, I love it. You're cracking me up, but I can't post that shit. So it's on our Patreon. It's only a couple
Nice.
bucks and it makes it so you can hear the stuff that like we can't post that. But if you want it, it's badass shit. That's some stuff that really wakes you up. So that's I don't mean to plug
That's awesome.
myself on our both of our podcasts. But I'm just saying there's some
No.
shit there that like put me to tears. When you put me to tears, you did some work.
Mm,
So like
yeah.
that's where you watch that episode of Me in Tears with Maria. She had me like there's tears going down my face when I'm going through shit. Like I'll go
Mm.
in. Let's do it. Daniel caught me off guard, had me like I was like about to ugly face cry. You got me.
Yeah.
There's something to it.
No, I agree. I think we need this holistic approach, which is what I think both of us really are believers in.
Mhm. Well, if it didn't keep working so damn much, that's the point of it, though. Here's Maria tearing a emotional and spiritual spear out of my back, and I don't feel that pain anymore. And Kai Jordan, he says the same thing. He can heal someone's spirit and their physical ailments go away. Maria Callas has healed someone's physical ailments through their spirit. There is some
Yeah.
shit there I cannot explain. If I went to the doctor and said I have a pain in my chest, what do you think the answer would be?
They'd
Motrin.
likely say, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
ibuprofen. Pain meds.
Yeah,
Treat the
exactly.
symptom.
Hmm.
The holistic approach. I wish that it was as mumbo jumbo and bullshit as people try to say, but you know what? It keeps fucking working.
Yeah. No, it
That's
does. And
that's the crazy
like
part.
that's
It works.
it's been my experience too. And like I started off when I first went into this journey, like I knew I wanted to uncover, why am I anxious? Like there's got to be something behind this. I knew in my gut that this wasn't just some life sentence like my therapist made it out to be. I went into psychology. I got my degree in psychology, but none of that actually helped anything. It wasn't until I did this deeper work and I learned how to go in and clear those energies, pull out the spears, like how Maria said. And like I've experienced not only relief in my anxiety, but I noticed that even like jaw, I've had double sided jaw surgery because my jaw got completely locked shut. And the only thing that has helped has been the energetic release that I've done.
I
The
think
only
that
thing.
that's
It's
a part of
crazy.
the outlets is you have to have the release on all four sides. That's where that
Mm,
balance comes from. If you're going to balance out, you have to be able
yeah.
to have some emotional release. There has to be some emotional. I don't care if it's cry or scream or get angry or punch a pillow. I don't give a fuck. Like find some way to get the emotions out. But you need a spirit side too, that energy release. You need to find it, whether it's meditation or something. Like find your way to be able to let it go. There's an energy thing there.
Yeah.
But there's also the writing or the logic side. You have to get like the it could be a talk it out. It could be write it
Mm,
out. There's something where you have to work through the thought process of it. But then there's also
mm,
the physical element, whether you're doing yoga or working out or some sort of like push your limits in some way. It's a balance between all four. But if you're only just, I'm going to take all four energies and put them just into working out. I'm going to take all
yeah.
the energies and put it just into cerebral. I'm gonna take all the energies and just make it only God. I'm gonna take all the energies and make it only my emotions.
Yeah.
Well, they seem to really be messed up. And if you're missing any, this is how I found my heart was repressed, as I was really hitting the wall on something. And I was doing the physical outlets, the mental outlets, and the spiritual outlets, and it was making me even angrier. It's never happened before. I didn't know what it was until I talked to Les McDaniels, who's a heart side coach. And he was like,
Mm.
brother, where's your heart side thing? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm looking in the gym. There ain't no kids. There ain't no heart side stuff. The inner child, shut the fuck up. I'm looking in the over here in the library. There ain't no inner child. There ain't no kid stuff. Ain't no shit to work on. What are you talking about? I'm looking in the
Hmm.
church side and the apostle side. I'm serving God. I'm doing my thing. I don't see any fucking kids here. He's like, there's a wall here. There's supposed to be a door here. Where is there? I'm like, there's always been a wall there. What are you talking about? He's like, give me your hammer. Puts a hole. He's like, look through the hole. I'm like, son of a bitch, there's a door back there. He's like, yeah, it looks like you closed off your hard side, man. Let's go and
Yeah.
do that. In which case, he used that tool for destruction to give me hope.
Yeah, which I mean just brings us back full circle to this idea of tool versus weapon. Like we have all these things available to us, mind, heart, soul, body, and we can use them as tools to help us or weapons that are just holding us back and keeping us stuck.
Just these are choices and beliefs. What are you going to choose that it is?
Yeah.
And if you can tell and accept the truth of yourself, then you can make real decisions on who you're going to be. Radical
Mm,
acceptance, understanding, challenging everything, all these tools, they're all tools. We're just giving you tools.
yeah.
Now you have to choose. Are you going to create positive chaos or just more destruction?
Mm.
Good
I
talk,
think that's
Nicole.
a I know. That was a great point to like I'm like we could definitely go in circles about this forever, but this that really closed it up nice.
Yeah, pretty good. Thanks for having me on your show and you being on my show at the same time.
Thank you for having me on. It's always lovely to talk with you and just have these actually thought provoking conversations as opposed to us just like presenting our knowledge,
Mhm.
challenging each other.
Yeah, I actually, I'm gonna give you praise real quick. I'm very proud of you for actually
Yeah.
giving me some pushback today. I really like it. It was good.
Oh, thank
Yeah, because you were like, I'm gonna argue that one a little bit. And I'm like, yeah,
you.
good, as you should. Yes.
Mm,
And this is something that if we're gonna leave it on anything for tool and a weapon, this polarization and having discord, if you're not able to have somebody ask you questions or challenge your ideas, you're on the problem team, not the solution team. And if you're radicalized or you just can't have that conversation or you start shutting people down and have a violent reaction because someone asked you why, you're on the problem team. You're not on the solution team. And so being able to have this kind of conversation where you go, I'm going to argue that one, or I don't know if that's right. I'm going to challenge that. This is how we grow. And so
mhm.
I honor you as a warrior to be able to say, I shall challenge your ideas so that I can grow too. And this is the way.
Well, thank you for allowing me to challenge you and being open to the discussion. You know, you don't get your back up or something when somebody's questioning you, which I think is just it says a lot about your character and your ability as a warrior. So thank you.
All right. Good job, Nicole. Well, we'll do another one. I'm sure of it. But thanks for having me on your show and you being on mine.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to our listeners. I hope that this has been
Oh,
enlightening.
oh yeah. If you like this, like and subscribe both of our shit. You know
Mhm.
all the buttons, and then share it because other people need to know this. And if you made it this far, let's just say you're a legend and you're the best. And I hope you just crushed it today.
Yes.